talking to Michelin. What are they thinking, Jack?
Yeah, early news. Of course, this can change on the grid, which sometimes it does, but we questioned this morning whether anybody would gamble with the soft rear tyre. At the moment, it looks like two riders are going to gamble. Fabio Quartararo and Miguel Oliveira, it seems, are going to at least go to the grid with the soft rear tyre and then make a late call. Frankie Morbidelli, understand, was on the fence, but at the moment he's leaning towards the medium despite trying the soft this morning. This all could change though, but at the moment, Quartararo and Oliveira with the soft rear.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Fabio Quartararo crashing out the sprint yesterday. He was fastest in this morning's warm-up session as we look at this breathtaking Bezzecchi recovery in yesterday's sprint, picking up Fermin Aldeguer, who must have thought at one stage he was going to take that first sprint success, but that was comeback complete by Bezzecchi. It was as low as 8th, having had clutch issues off the line on the factory Aprilia. We'll keep obviously a close eye on what's going to be the tyre selections from Michelin in the build-up to this Grand Prix of Indonesia. Miguel Oliveira looks like at the moment he might be going for the soft rear as well. He took his first sprint point on the Yamaha YZR M1 yesterday, 9th after Marini's penalty.
Pedro Acosta, who might well have been in that podium battle himself yesterday in the sprint had he not crashed out of second place, looking to go back-to-back, having finished second a year ago to Jorge Martin. Kind of feels like they're all fighting for second place here today behind Marco Bezzecchi, unless something goes wrong for the Italian, but it did go rather wrong off the line yesterday with some clutch issues leaving the grid for the pole sitter. Pedro Acosta, though, starting from that second row, surely will have his eyes only forwards.
Yeah, it was a captivating sprint yesterday, largely because of Bezzecchi's poor start. This was Acosta. He was on the hard front tyre. That was so crucial in him losing the front early on as he was trying to go with early leader Fermin Aldeguer. Such an easy mistake to make this as you're trail braking into that hard braking zone for turn 1. Down from about 310 kilometres an hour into a second gear, 95 kilometres an hour first corner. Unfortunately, Acosta's sprint podium hopes vanishing in a cloud of dust. Nobody would have potentially seen Marco Bezzecchi for dust had he not had that poor start yesterday. 7 laps he managed in the 129s in yesterday's sprint. That was 3 more than the rest of the grid were able to muster. Fermin Aldeguer did 3 as he desperately tried to fend off Bezzecchi's late charge. Pedro Acosta, before he had that mistake there at turn 1, was also able to produce 1 lap in the 129s. This was why Marc Marquez, though, had to have a little visit to the long lap penalty loop, Lewis. His first indiscretion on a factory Ducati.
The first lap, of course, trying to make up ground from what, by Marc Marquez's extraordinarily high standards, was a poor qualifying into the side of Alex Rins. An incident that, in fairness, Marc Marquez had no qualms about. He accepted that the penalty was going to come his way, even if there were some mitigating factors. He was caught up in the slipstream of Luca Marini's Honda, which dragged both he and Alex Rins wide. But once you make contact with someone else in a situation like that, there's only one outcome. That was Marc Marquez in the broadcaster set just downstairs from us, apologising to Alex Rins yesterday. Rins, once he had seen the replays himself, he understood why the incident took place. Marc Marquez recovering in the end from that long lap penalty to take 6th place.
It was a rather strange and new experience yesterday, wasn't it, for the 93? The first time he's seen the checkered flag this season in a sprint, and he was not either first or second. Ralf Fernandez, well, this has been a pretty as a weekend so far in Mandalika, hasn't it? As Fernandez on the front row of the grid for Trackhouse, and then taking his first MotoGP podium yesterday in the sprint. Can he back it up with a double podium? And what on earth is going to unfold in the next hour and 10 minutes or so for Pecco Bagnaia, who has had so many torrid and tough days already in 2025. What's been a bleak at times 2025 for Bagnaia, the double MotoGP world champion. Well, his day on Saturday here in Mandalika was, to be frank, absolutely awful. It was woeful. 14th he was from first in the Motegi sprint to last over the line in the Mandalika sprint. Just 7 days between the 2 Grand Prix, of course. 29.3 seconds. Bagnaia with the drift of Marco Bezzecchi. I suppose some good news, though, as once again Ducati complete the triple crown. Marc Marquez, the Rider World Champion. Of course, they sealed the Constructor Prize an awful long time ago, and once again Ducati Lenovo supreme as the top team in MotoGP.
Pecco Bagnaia, as you saw there, wasn't necessarily in the mood for celebrating, but in the end it was a day of celebration for the factory Ducati team, and a weekend where they haven't had an awful lot to smile about. They've been rather unusually uncompetitive on both sides of the box. The best Ducati hope so far this weekend has come from Grassini, foaming Aldeguer and Alex Marquez. Alex Marquez did secure a very solid fourth place yesterday, which with Bagnaia's problems has certainly aided his quest to finish as the runner-up to Marc Marquez in the World Championship.
Yeah, there's a massive gap now of 72 points between Alex and Pecco in third place. Bagnaia now only 20 points clear. Bez in that fight between the two Italians potentially for third overall. Well, as mentioned, by their normally exceptionally high standards, it's been a rather off-colour weekend so far for the factory Ducati squad. Can they salvage something here this afternoon? Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Davide Tardozzi, who's with Jack.
Yeah, when Pecco came to speak to me yesterday, Davide said he had no answer, no understanding of what happened. So overnight have been able to work out what happened and how he's gone in the space of 7 days, from dominating in Japan to finishing 30 seconds behind the leader in last yesterday.
Yeah, we are still trying to understand it, but anyway, during the season there could be unlucky race. This is the case, and we'll see. We are already focused to finish the race and take it to Phillip Island.
Do you honestly think that the package that Ducati provided Pecco yesterday was worthy of finishing where it did?
Is what he had in Japan. What he had in Japan, and we have to understand why he is not performing in the same way. So the GT and the engineers are still working on it, and it's obviously difficult to understand because otherwise we have found a solution. But again, we'll see what the race today, and then we are thinking to finish.
And just on Mark, despite the long lap penalty yesterday, he started to find his feeling. Fastest lap for him on the penultimate lap showed that maybe there's signs of promise going into today.
Yeah, I think that Mark did a quite good race, but in the end we are, we have a lot of question mark because Fermin did a fantastic race. Mark not a bad race. Pecco unfortunately very bad race, but that's why as Ducati we are thinking what's the difference are, why it happens, and we are thinking a lot of that because we have a really big headache.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you, Davide.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's been some massive headaches across that factory Ducati garage so far this weekend. Bagnaia, I mean, bizarre, just bizarre and weird how he can go from so dominant last weekend in Japan, pole position, led every lap of the sprint, led every lap of the Grand Prix. The first time this year actually across a weekend that one rider has led every single racing lap. And then fast forward a week and he is absolutely nowhere. Looking completely bemused, looking completely bamboozled. Davide Tardozzi there just saying, well, his bike, the exact same specification technically as it was in Japan last weekend. It really is just such a bizarre situation. So hard to sort of really put your finger on what's going on really behind the scenes as far as the 63 is concerned. It's frankly quite shocking to see.
Yeah, if Pecco Bagnaia and Davide Tardozzi and company are in no position to explain what's happened, then I don't know what chance we've got. It's so unusual, so bizarre to see a rider go from one extreme to the other over the course of just 7 days. Well, they have welcomed us with open arms here in Indonesia. There was a parade in front of 30,000 MotoGP fans in Mataram earlier in the week on Wednesday. It is one of the parts of the world, one of the countries where MotoGP has its best support. They absolutely adore their heroes on two wheels in Indonesia. Marc Marquez arriving here as world champion. Spent the week in Jakarta earlier on in the week, of course, speaking to many of the world's media. Won the world championship. First bit of peace and quiet for him, arriving here on the beautiful island of Lombok, which is about to erupt to the sound of 19 fire-breathing MotoGP bikes.
They are mobbed. They are like A-list celebrities, aren't they, the MotoGP riders, when they touch down in Lombok. Gives you an indication of just how popular MotoGP is in Indonesia. Fabio Di Gianantonio said he felt like Justin Bieber, such was the adulation when he was part of the Prix event that Valentino Rossi attended, of course, over in Jakarta. Pecco Bagnaia himself saying he felt like Led Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant. As we look at Luca Marini, 6th place on the grid. Coming up for the Italian, he thought he was 6th place in yesterday's sprint before there was an 8-second penalty for a tyre pressure infringement, which of course then bumped up the likes of Marc Marquez, Morbidelli, Di Gianantonio and Oliveira. Well, he got a good catch for dinner later on this evening. There's been plenty of snorkel fishing going on in the crystal clear waters, the turquoise waters that surround this spectacular island of Lombok. 2 hours it is a flight away from Jakarta, about a very short boat ride over from nearby Bali. If you do indeed have desires on maybe attending one day in the future an overseas MotoGP Grand Prix, well, we can thoroughly recommend Lombok and the Pertamina Mandalika circuit. Bring your sun cream, maybe bring a pocket fan as well, because it's pretty darn hot, but it will be well worth the long trip. It's a spectacular and scenic setting for Grand Prix motorcycle racing.
They come from all over the Asia-Pacific region. There are many here from Australia too, of course, so many from Indonesia. Many will be supporting this man and this team. Of course, the Pertamina Enduro VR46 team, Indonesian sponsors, and an Indonesian flavour to their livery here this afternoon too, with the red and white incorporated into what is a very distinctive fluo yellow VR46 Ducati. Fabio Di Gianantonio and Frankie Morbidelli, who didn't exactly put the mate in teammates yesterday.
Not for the first time this year. Frankie and Fabio have had rather different opinions about how they should approach racing here in Mandalika. As we look now at Frankie, 7th he was in the sprint yesterday, 5th, a rather lonely 5th last time out over in Japan. It was his 10th top 6 finish in 15 Grand Prix so far this year for Frankie. Points in all 3 Indonesian Grand Prix, a best of 4th last year when he was running a strong 3rd for 14 laps of that race, just coming up a little bit short in a late battle with Bagnaia. Everybody trying to seek some shade there in what is really, really hot conditions. I think this probably is going to be the most demanding Grand Prix physically and mentally of the season as for these MotoGP riders. Well, Alex Rins, unfortunately, unable to really show his potential from a season best 4th place on the grid, a best ever grid position on a factory Yamaha for the Spanish rider. Of course, he was the victim of Marc Marquez just missing his braking point in the draft behind Luca Marini into turn 10. And Brad Binder, well, it's a pretty rough patch at the moment for a few of the KTMs. Of course, we're missing sadly Maverick Vinales. He withdrew yesterday pre-sprint. Vinales still struggling with pain and discomfort and a lack of mobility in the left shoulder. He first damaged at the German Grand Prix in the Saxon ring. Not really sure when we will see Vinales back again. There's been some rumours that he might actually sit out the remainder of 2025 for that left shoulder to fully heal and maybe come back to try the 2026 RC16 prototype at the post-race test in Valencia. Right on cue here is Vinales. Not faring too much better on the opposite side of that Tech 3 garage right now is Enea Bastianini, who's been on the floor 3 times so far this weekend. Yeah, speedy recovery to the Top Gun. Of course, was on the podium here 2 years ago and part of the factory Prix team, when for the first time we were treated to the Bat Mav celebrations. Yeah, let's hope we see Maverick back on track sooner rather than later.
I'm still here to support the team this afternoon. Watching his former teammate Fabio Quartararo too this afternoon. Quartararo had pretty high hopes coming into this Indonesian Grand Prix weekend. Those expectations haven't really been met to this point so far this weekend. He's been suffering all weekend from a strange feeling and a lack of grip. Quartararo had a disastrous start at the beginning of yesterday's sprint and then crashed on the very last lap.
He has taken both of Yamaha's podiums here. Every fall is just a step toward the finish line. Mandalika awaits you. Well, Mandalika That waiting game is over as far as Marc Marquez is concerned as he ventures out on circuit. Yet Yamaha's two previous podiums here in Indonesia were both taken by Quartararo. Second in 2022, that rain hit. First visit here 3 years ago from pole position, and he was third in the Grand Prix a couple of years ago. Marco Bezzecchi then. In terms of Grand Prix here previously in Mandalika, Aprilia's only podium was Maverick Vinales' second here in 2023. Somebody is going to have to find something very, very special to deny Bezzecchi the pole, sprint and Grand Prix treble here today. Because let's be honest, if Marco Bezzecchi had not botched the start yesterday with a couple of clutch issues on that factory in Aprilia, I'm not sure we'd have got the last lap thriller which eventually were treated to. Now, no complaints here in the commentary box. We did get a great spectacle. Of course, second time in the last few Grand Prix that we've seen the sprint decided on the last lap. The previous one, Marco Bezzecchi came out the worst of it when Marc Marquez passed him on the last lap of the sprint at the Sachsenring in Germany. This time around, though, it was Bez that was prevailing. Well, at the moment, or the pre-grid information coming from Michelin was soft rear for Quartararo, soft rear for fellow Yamaha rider Aldeguer. That, of course, can change, but we're going to be keeping a very close eye on the tyre sheets, which will be revealed shortly.
And what's going to dictate that decision is ultimately whether you're prepared to accept and stomach the rather painstaking warm-up process that you have on the medium rear tyre. Many tried it on Friday and noted that it did take several laps to ultimately get that tyre into its working temperature, which does sound like an odd thing to say when you've got 60 degrees of track temperature, but of course it is a reinforced casing on this medium rear tyre to cope with the specific heat demands of this circuit. So if you're prepared to put up with that, knowing that you're going to have the durability over the race, the medium rear is your choice. If you don't want to put up with that, if you just want that initial early grip to get yourself out of traffic potentially and get yourself some early track position, then that will tempt you to go for the soft rear tyre.
This is a brutal, brutal Grand Prix. Last year, there were only 12 finishers, the lowest finishing tally since Valencia in 2011, the lowest in a dry Grand Prix since Sepang in 2010. We only had 14 finishers in 2023. The last two Grand Prix here in Mandalika, there's been 18 DNFs, so it really is one of the toughest examinations on the entire Grand Prix calendar. Sighting lap, a very, very slow sighting lap. Not as fuel thirsty, not as fuel hungry as Prix last weekend with all of its hard braking and hard acceleration. Very stop and go in layout, isn't it, Prix? This has much more of a flowing feel to it, but it's still in fuel saving mode. Alex Marquez then looking well set to making a Marquez 1-2 in this year's MotoGP World Championship. Alex, fourth in the sprint yesterday. Let's get his thoughts for Jack.
Yeah, the towel goes around the neck to try and keep cool. Alex, it's been a challenging weekend so far. What do you think is possible today?
Difficult to say. I mean, it will depend a lot on the start, but I feel ready. I felt much better today on the warm-up with the medium rear tire. That looks like will be the majority tire choice. So we'll see which option we have. But yeah, we need to be patient. I mean, it will be a really long race, and you know we need to control the pace. But yeah, I think we have good options to be between third and 7. So it will depend a lot on the start.
Good luck.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Alex Marquez. Fermin Aldeguer, his BK8 Grazini racing colleague, gets his last chance, as you saw there on screen, to be our second youngest ever MotoGP winner. An accolade which has been held by Mark since the Austin Grand Prix all the way back in 2013 when he won it as a sprightly 20-year-old back in the day, taking the record away from Freddie Spencer.
Pecco Bagnaia trudges off the grid and doesn't appear to be particularly looking forward to his next hour or so's work. Coming through from 16th on the grid is a tall order anyway, never mind the difficulties he's been suffering from all weekend. Of course, Pecco Bagnaia has come from deep on the grid to win here before. 13th on the grid he started back in 2023. He won the Indonesian Grand Prix. Don't expect, unless something extraordinary happens today, for Pecco to pull off a repeat.
Well, we're going to get a Mark miracle at some point here in Mandalika. Can he break a curse which has really followed him around this Mandalika International Circuit since 2022? He has yet to score a Grand Prix point here in Indonesia. Mark, of course, he had a rather spectacular engine failure which brought him out of last year's Grand Prix. pretty much put paid to any hope he had. Slim hopes at the time of winning the World Championship.
Here's your grid then. Marco Bezzecchi, Aldeguer and Ralph Hernandez starting together on the front row of the grid. Aldeguer keeping up Ducati's proud front row record, which stretches back to 2020. Alex Rins, Pedro Acosta and Luca Marini on row 2. Acosta going for the medium front tyre on this occasion. Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo and Marc Marquez on row 3. The information maintains that Quartararo is going for the soft rear tyre, as is Miguel Oliveira from 10th on the grid. Gian Antonio and Mir join him on row 4. Frankie Morbidelli, Jack Miller and Brad Binder are on the 5th row of the grid. The R46 Ducatis looking to stay out of each other's way this time. Pecco Bagnaia 16th from Enea Bastianini, Johan Zarco and Tomcat Chancho. Confirmation at this stage, with still 20 minutes to go before lights out. Just 2 riders, Quartararo and Oliveira, on the soft rear tyre.
Binder was on the medium front. We saw yesterday Binder and Acosta on the factory KTMs go for the hardest option front tyre. Looks like they're going to step harder than everybody else in this Grand Prix as well. Well, what a weekend it's been so far for the rider on screens right now. Ralph Hernandez, front row, and then a brilliant ride to 3rd place in yesterday's sprint. His first sprint podium. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Davide Brivio. Who's with Jack?
Yeah, first opportunity for Raul to celebrate in MotoGP yesterday. He said he was nervous in those closing laps, Davide, as the checkered flag drew closer. As a result, have you seen a slightly more relaxed Raul ahead of today?
Yeah, hopefully, of course, yesterday was the first podium, and when I think Marco overtook him, he was conscious to keep the position. And yes, a little bit nervous, but he managed well. Hopefully today the pressure is a little bit less, because he did it. And let's see, I mean, we start from the first row and let's see what's happened. I think probably the competition today would be harder than yesterday. We expect many more riders fighting on the front. And yeah, let's see. We try to play our cards and see what happens.
The medium rear, how many laps have you managed to do on it throughout the weekend, and how comfortable has Raul felt?
I don't know exactly, but I mean, for us it looks like it's the only option, because the soft was okay for yesterday in the sprint race, but I think for so many laps, I mean, I know that for somebody it could be an idea, but for us it's quite clear. We go on a medium and it's the only choice we have, but it's okay. I mean, it should be okay for the race.
Thanks, Davide. Good luck.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks to Davide Brivio. Thanks, as always, once again to Jack. Joining us for the first time this weekend. We sincerely hope you're not. But Aprilia a bit under strength here this weekend. Under strength, but certainly not under par, were they? Marco Bezzecchi and Ralph Hernandez yesterday. There are 2 riders left here in Indonesia. Double front row, double podium in the sprint. Jorge Martin, of course, sadly sidelined after he broke his right collarbone. Multiple fractures in the right collarbone for Martin. Now, former MotoGP World Champion, of course, after he crashed in the first corner of the first lap of the sprint. Martin has already had an operation, definitely missing the Australian Grand Prix later on this month over in Phillip Island. And unfortunately, more bad news on the eve of this Mandalika battle was Aldeguer. Ralph Hernandez's Trackhouse Aprilia colleague was declared unfit and ruled out. This saw a hangover legacy of Aguirre's 260-mile-an-hour crash at the San Marino Grand Prix in Misano, which of course forced him to withdraw on Sunday morning a week ago out of his home Grand Prix. So just Bez and Fernandez lining up for Aprilia.
Johan Zarco, like us, enjoying the pre-race ceremony here on the grid in Indonesia. They certainly bring the colour and the atmosphere to MotoGP. We are now just over 15 minutes away from a very different kind of show. The big crowd here. We're expecting a bumper crowd once again here in Indonesia on this Sunday afternoon. Are set to roar into life as MotoGP goes racing here for the 4th year in a row.
Yeah, we first came here in 2022. It was the first visit to Indonesia in 25 years, all the way back in 1997. Shall we just pause for a minute just while we enjoy this pre-ceremony before we pick it up again? Well, we just thought we'd take a little bit of a pause there to let you enjoy some of the pre-race festivities here over in Indonesia. You can see that very, very shortly we'll have all the riders, all 19 MotoGP riders will come to the head of the grid. We just saw that updated Tower of Champions. There it is. Of course, it was almost, well, it was this time last week, wasn't it, that Marc Marquez was preparing to add his name to it for the 7th time. It was a little bit of a funny moment, wasn't it? He did the coronation. I mean, so long, 2019, since he was last able to add his name to that Tower Champions. Mark had actually forgotten how you put the plaque on the Tower Champions. He eventually worked it out, as he did so brilliantly throughout 2025 on that factory Ducati. Fabio Quartararo, the fastest in this morning's warm-up, looking like he's going for the soft rear tyre gamble. Jack, you've got the Frenchman.
Yeah, I do indeed. Fabio at the moment, soft rear in the back of that Yamaha M1. Is that the plan for the race, and what does it mean for the strategy?
Yes, we are not making work the medium, so we will try our best with the soft, and especially the hard front I think will help us, but the most important will be try to make a good start. That yesterday and this morning I struggled a lot, so hopefully we'll make a great start.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Fabio Quartararo. Points in the last 9 Grand Prix for the 26-year-old from Nice. Of course, 7 of those have been top 10s. Been an up-and-down weekend for Quartararo. He feels like the Yamahas really have struggled just for a predictable feeling on that harder carcass heat-resistant rear tyre from Michelin. He's had crashes at key moments so far this weekend as Quartararo. A crash at turn 15 in Q2, and then he was out of the sprint yesterday with a crash at turn 2. Turn 15 was his crash of Q2 on Friday. A bit of jigging, a bit of toe tapping in the commentary box ourselves. Myself and Lewis enjoying this build-up to this Grand Prix of Indonesia. Going to break into our pre-race ceremony and have a little match on the grid. Jack is with Frankie Morbidelli.
Yeah, just walking to the grid with Frankie now. Frankie, big race ahead for the team. Pertamina Enduro, of course, the title sponsors here in Indonesia. So, what do you expect?
Expect a good race. That's what I expect.
Okay, we'll get stuck in. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
It is always very short and sweet,
Well,
isn't it?
He's right.
When you speak to Frankie Morbidelli. Yeah, let's hope it is a good race as far as the Italian then is concerned. We're about a couple of minutes or so away from the national anthem, so we're going to take advantage of the chance to get a little bit of a breather here and enjoy once again some of this pre-race build-up here in Mandalika. See some of those packed grandstands here in Mandalika, getting some shade as the riders walk past the Tower of Champions. Of course, it was that very trophy that was lighting up social media this time last week when Marc Marquez took the 2nd place, which he needed to be crowned 7-time MotoGP World Champion, 9 times World Champion in his great career. Lombok hosts the 2nd biggest volcano in Indonesia. This great nation made up of 18,000 different islands Around 6,000 of them, I believe, are actually uninhabited. So much unsport beauty around this part of the world. We're going to take a short break then here in the commentary box and let you enjoy the national anthem of Indonesia.
Send a tingle down your spine as Indonesia gets set for its 4th Grand Prix at this Mandalika circuit. Are Aprilia on course to win it? Marco Bezzecchi, the overwhelming favourite. Paolo Vanora speaking to Jack.
Paolo, it's been a brilliant weekend for Aprilia so far. How's Marco feeling ahead of the main event?
Yeah, despite of the bad start of yesterday, it was unbelievable to see him in the last 3 laps. So an unbelievable overtake. We hope that today will be much easier to start in a better way in order to be in the front in the first part of the race and to try to manage in a better way, because yesterday the pressure was wide for us seeing him, and yeah, as you said, an unbelievable weekend. We hope to finish with our best.
Marco mentioned maybe a clutch problem yesterday is what caused the bad start from warm-up this morning and the practice start there. Have you fixed that?
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah.
Okay, good luck. Thanks.
You can see. Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Paolo Vanora. As always, you just saw there on screen information from Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso. All tyre options, front and rear, are going to be used in this upcoming Grand Prix of Indonesia. First time that's happened since this very Grand Prix back in 2023. Well, he's the 2025 MotoGP World Champion. He'll start with the defence in 2026 at the Chang International Circuit in Buram on March the 1st. Here's another key date for your diary if you're watching at home. Ladies and gentlemen, Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia will be the location of our very special 2026 season launch. February the 6th and the 7th of 2026. About 3 weeks then, of course, before the opening Grand Prix on March the 1st in Buram. That's a date for your diaries if you're in this part of Southeast Asia. Kuala Lumpur will host our much anticipated 2026 season launch. Of course, we had our first major season launch take place over in Bangkok at the start of 2025. So yeah, date for your diary, MotoGP fans. February the 6th and 7th.
So back to Polo from Bangkok earlier in the season, but I'm sure Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia are up for the challenge. Very much looking forward to heading across there in 3 weeks' time for the Malaysian Grand Prix, the last of this 4-race Asia Pacific stint. This, of course, stage 2 of it. MotoGP feels as if in many respects it has been turned on its head this weekend. You saw Alex Rins a moment ago leading Yamaha on the grid. Aldeguer here leading Ducati on the grid, looking to follow in the footsteps of his mentor in many respects, Jorge Martin, looking to become the first rookie to win a MotoGP race since Martin back in Austria 4 years ago.
Second time yesterday that Aldeguer has actually led in MotoGP. There's a flashback to one of the best moments of Marc Marquez's Grand Prix career. Second place in the Japanese Grand Prix behind Pecco Bagnaia, and that was enough to crown him MotoGP World Champion in 2025. There is the spectacular sight of Indonesia's second biggest volcano, which sits in the heart of this beautiful island of Lombok. We're based right on the southern tip of Lombok, surrounded by a spectacular coastline. We're hoping for a spectacular Grand Prix of Indonesia now coming up very, very shortly. We're, about 3 minutes away from lights out. A very intriguing race in terms of the tyre choice, isn't it, from Michelin? We could see sort of deviations in lap times. Review was predicting that we might see a few names fighting at the front of this Grand Prix. We certainly hope so as we go into countdown mode. 5 minutes it is then until race start. Can Marc Marquez score his first ever Grand Prix point here in front of Indonesia's adoring fans? They've taken the 93 to heart, haven't they, since we came back here in 2022. He's very popular all over the world, but certainly he has rock star status here, doesn't he, Marc Marquez? In fact, every MotoGP rider does, to be fair. 30,000 fans gathered at a special pre-event on the island capital of Mataram. A lot of those fans have made the journey south then here to Lombok. You can hear the atmosphere building in the background from the grandstands. Raul Fernandez then, looking to convert third place on the grid. Third place in the sprint into his first ever Grand Prix podium. Marco Bezzecchi, though, will be on pole. Chapter 18 in the 2025 MotoGP World Championship comes from the gorgeous island of Lombok. It's the Grand Prix of Indonesia as we come to the halfway point of our 4-race flyaway tour. Coming up next will be Down Under, heading south once again to the Australian Grand Prix in Phillip Island. Then we move back north to the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur for the Malaysian Grand Prix at the Sepang International Circuit, but in front of a record crowd here in Mandalika. Marco Bezzecchi is looking to cap off what will be probably one of the best weekends of his Grand Prix career, not just one of the best in MotoGP. He comes into this 27-lap Pertamina Grand Prix of Indonesia as a huge red-hot favourite in red-hot conditions, track temperature close to 60 degrees, ambient temperature well in excess of 30 degrees. It's incredibly hot, it's incredibly humid. Can anybody stop Bezzecchi then from completing the treble? Never had a double victory previously in his Grand Prix career. Ducati have won our last 2 visits here, Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia. Of course, our first visit here to Mandalika back in 2022. It was very much a rain-hit affair. on that occasion by Miguel Oliveira on the factory KTM. That's the reason why it is known as magnificent and majestic Mandalika. Spectacular setting. It's right up there, isn't it, with the likes of Mugello in the heart of the Tuscany Mountains, the Styrian Mountains when we visit Austria, and the Red Bull Ring. And of course, coming up next, we're sat right on the Bass Straits, Phillip Island, which is always a Grand Prix we look forward to. I think many of us are looking forward to just some cool conditions when we head further south down to Phillip Island. Looking at some of the early forecasts, they're not going to disappoint us. It looks very, very cool. We're going to get a respite from all of this sweltering heat we've experienced here in Indonesia. I'm not complaining as we get set for this 27-lap round 18. Championship, of course, already decided 7 days ago over Ali Mobility Resort Motegi in Japan. Marc Marquez, a 7-time MotoGP World Champion now. Plenty still at stake. Plenty still to fight for then in our final 5 Grand Prix of 2025. Second place still up for grabs. 72 points between Alex Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Just 20 points between Bezzecchi and Bagnaia in the hunt for third. Lights out, and we're racing here in Mandalika. Underway we go. The Marco Bezzecchi's again shot pole position. Another shocking start. He's going backwards once again. Marquez gets aggressive on the inside of both Quartararo and Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi's going to go 6th or 7th as they steam towards turn 2. But it's Pedro Acosta leads from Luca Marini in second.
Tell you what, it was very touch and go as to when the Pedro Acosta jumped the start. It was very close indeed. He had the lead. We'll have to keep a very close eye on our timing screens to see if that start was legitimate.
Well, yeah, we'll keep a very, very close eye. That will come up immediately on our timing screens in the commentary box. Acosta it is, though, that leads. Marini's been superb once again for line. He was 6th to 2nd.
Oh,
yes, that is it.
It's
Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi. That's a massive, massive crash early on here. The new world champions Mandalika curse continues, and Marco Bezzecchi, the massive pre-race favourite from pole position and the sprint victory, is out early on in this Grand Prix.
And Mark looks hurt too. That was Marco Bezzecchi going for too much, too early after another disastrous start. The pre-race favourite and the new world champion both out on that one.
He is cursed, he is jinxed here, isn't he, in Mandalika. Marc Marquez, you could hear the massive groans from the crowd as both Bezzecchi and Marc tumbled out of contention on what has been a dramatic first lap here in Mandalika. A first lap which will end with Pedro Acosta as the lead. That will be reviewed after the Grand Prix. We'll await the replays, but it's going to be Acosta from Marini, from Aldeguer. Marc Marquez has still not been able to get to his feet here. This has been a real cage rattler for the new world champion.
Yeah, Benz is up behind Marc Marquez. So difficult to pass into turn 7, straight into the back of Marc Marquez, and he clips his left foot as well on the way through. Bezzecchi, I'm afraid, can look at open himself for that one.
That was horrible. That was a horrible crash. Look, Marc gets his left foot run over, and then Bezzecchi's along for the ride. There was multiple big barrel rolls through the gravel trap for the Italian. That's great news to see him hobbling away from the scene. Well, what was a dream Saturday has turned into a nightmare Sunday for Marco Bezzecchi.
Yeah, Bezzecchi going straight over there to check on Marc Marquez, and a handshake between the two. Of course, they have had a bit of a frosty relationship in the past, but that didn't change recently in Misano. Bezzecchi, Marc Marquez out of the race. What that means is this Grand Prix is now wide open as Mir now gets into Alex Marquez. Alex coming through on the inside. That's for 7th place, but we've got Acosta, Marini, Aldeguer and Rins, your 4 at the front.
It almost looked like as he was making the move on me, Alex lost the front on that really, the captain. As it picked up, it just lifted me up on the outside. Right, let's try and regroup after one of the most dramatic first laps we've seen of 2025 so far. Bezzecchi and Marc Marquez out of contention. Acosta is your leader. Still no information coming up on our timing screens about whether the Spaniard did indeed make a jump start. And now Joan Mir has crashed out of contention as well after the contact at turn 10. The factory Honda rider contact with Alex at turn 10. And Mir now becomes our 3rd high-profile victim early on here in Mandalika.
Well, we already said this was going to be a race of survival. 3 out of it already, and 3 key players out of this Grand Prix. As we see Ralph Fernandez coming through on Alex Rins. Everyone in this field, particularly towards the front, are suddenly realising the obvious favourite is out. The rider who's won so many Grand Prix this season is out. This is anybody's.
It's a brutal, brutal experience here at this Indonesian Grand Prix. Marc Marquez has still not been able to take his helmet off here.
I think he's hurt
as
his
he
shoulder.
goes tracks on here. The right shoulder, maybe the right arm's a concern here for Marc. This is Marco Bezzecchi then, just trying to push too hard, too soon, clipping the rear tyre of the factory Ducati. That is so fast going through that turn 7. It's fourth gear, over 200 kilometres an hour. Marco Bezzecchi then realises, Bezzecchi just realises there, oh no, this is going to be a big moment with him and Marc. Marc got his arm, well, the right arm clearly is an issue and a concern for the 93. He got his left foot run over as well. Marco Bezzecchi went careering through the gravel trap. Fourth gear over 200 k's when there was contact between the two stars.
So Joanne Pins, he's out of the Grand Prix. Acosta leads from Luca Marini, Fermin Aldeguer and Ralph Fernandez. The top 4 in this race have never won a MotoGP Grand Prix. Alex Rins in 5th place hasn't won for the better part of 2.5 years. Fabio Quartararo in 6th hasn't won since 2022.
Marc and Bezzecchi shaken up. The order at the front of this Grand Prix all shook up, isn't it? As we now see Acosta, Marini, Aldeguer and Ralph Fernandez all set fastest laps of this Grand Prix. Further down the order is Miguel Oliveira, one of only 3 riders on the soft rear tyre, with Rins and Quartararo, 2 of the Yamahas, with that soft rear tyre coming in beautifully already for Oliveira. 131.366 sees Oliveira fastest rider on circuit. He's down at the moment in 11th place.
And even with 3 riders out, Pecco Bagnaia is last again. He's now 4 seconds off the back of the field. Bagnaia must have made a mistake somewhere to drop so far down the order. Let's have a look at what was going on into turn 1 then. This is Rins going in hot and dropping away for the back of Ralph Fernandez.
Rins has been on the floor there in Q2 this weekend. Back at the front then is still Acosta from Marini. This lead quartet with that little bit of a breather now ahead of Alex Rins. Fabio Quartararo on the second of the factory Yamaha, still there in 6th place. Brad Binder is 8th as Aldeguer goes on the inside, and Marini made that move beautifully. Nice move that by Aldeguer, going through the fast left-hander of turn 12. Aldeguer then now up into 2nd place. Starseed pursuit of Acosta.
Aldeguer possibly the favourite at this stage to win this Grand Prix, given what we saw from him in the sprint yesterday. Of course, we would never have known where Acosta would have figured, because he crashed out of the sprint. No news on our timing screens. We haven't had the no jump stars message, but we certainly had any news of Acosta jumping it. If he didn't jump it, he absolutely nailed it.
2021 Styrian Grand Prix, last time a rookie won a MotoGP World Championship battle. That is in the hands here right now for Aldeguer as he brakes hard on that Gresini Ducati into the first corner. Costa, it is the lead. Aldeguer is the quickest rider on circuit right now, a 131.365. As I'm sure a very apologetic Marco Bezzecchi starts to digest what was a monumental get-off. Big impact between himself and Marc Marquez on that really dramatic first lap here in Mandalika. Acosta then from Aldeguer, Marini 3rd, Ralph Fernandez in 4th place, Alex Rins 5th, Quartararo still in 6th place ahead of Alex Marquez, Binder, Miller and Oliveira your top 10.
So Pedro Acosta's the only rider in this front 6 who's on the medium front tyre. You've got soft front tyres for the 4 riders immediately behind him, and Aldeguer now getting his claws well and truly into his fellow Murphian. Of course, Aldeguer, as we mentioned, pre-Grand Prix, looking to become the 2nd youngest MotoGP winner in history.
Bagnaia did have a massive mistake on that previous lap. He did a 138.671, and that's dumped him over 4 seconds behind Sokyat Chantra, who's now in the final point scoring places. Chantra on course for points in the 3rd successive Grand Prix. Bagnaia though staring down the barrel of yet another very lonely tour at the back of this race, just as he did in yesterday's sprint. We're on board then with Aldeguer. Through the final corner we go, turn 17. This is going to be the completion of lap 5 of 27. So an awful long way to go in this Grand Prix. It's back-to-back fast laps for Aldeguer. This time around he's improved to a 131.288, but once again on that soft rear tyre, getting that hooked up beautifully right now is Oliveira, a 131.261. The Portuguese rider once again fastest on track.
The factory Yamahas are getting detached a little bit though from this top 4. Certainly Rins is. Rins did a 31.9, of course, with that mistake into turn 1. Quartararo at the moment cannot get past his teammate. They're now 1.5 seconds back from Ralph Fernandez, who's at the tail of this 4-rider train at the front.
So Oliveira then down to those low 131s. Aldeguer looking very strong. We know how good he is at nursing tyres in tricky conditions, low grip conditions, as Ralph Fernandez sends it on the inside of Luca Marini. That's not going to work out. Justin too hot on the brakes into turn 10. Aldeguer showing Acosta his front wheel going through 11. Marc Marquez, when he was on the podium with Aldeguer in the Austrian Grand Prix, said of all of the Ducati riders, it's Aldeguer that is better at anybody on a GP24 or a GP25 or whatever Ducati are calling their deserts at each now this year. He's the best at managing the rubber late on in Grand Prix.
KTM leads Ducati, leads Honda, leads Aprilia, and then of course we've got Yamaha's in 5th and 6th, just showing you how unpredictable and jumbled up MotoGP has been this weekend. 6 laps about to be completed, and the Yamaha's gently coming back now towards the top 4 after Riggs' error a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, Quattararo, the only rider that's got the hard front tyre, and he's going to have to given that 5 or 6 laps to really come in. Maybe that's now the start of the Grand Prix, or this point of the Grand Prix, we're going to see Quattararo start to make some significant forward progress. He'll certainly be hoping so. Acosta then down to a 131.418. What an unforgettable weekend this has been for the factory Ducati team. This collision early on, Marco Bezzecchi charging into the back of Marc Marquez's factory Ducati, putting the 93 and world champion immediately out of contention. Oh, Marc was looking as though there's no serious damage, hopefully to that left foot. It looks like the main concern's a right shoulder injury, and with Marc out early, yeah, look, he's already sort of feeling that upper right arm. Of course, it was the right humerus bone, wasn't it, causing so much grief. Here is Aldeguer then in the top left-hand corner of your picture, taking the lead of this Grand Prix for the first time. He's got the job done up at turn 10. Acosta now, what has he got in terms of retaliation on the factory KTM?
54 then now leads 37, and Fermin Aldeguer knows that with his likeliest challenger, Marco Bezzecchi, now out of this Grand Prix, is the path clear? Well, it's far from clear at the moment with Acosta right behind him, but Fermin Aldeguer now leading this Grand Prix, and the rider that chased him down yesterday is nowhere to be found.
You have to imagine that accident will be reviewed after the race, a potential penalty coming their way for Bezzecchi next time out of Phillip Island. This was the move that he set it all up, getting the drive coming through turn 9. There's nothing that Acosta can do about this. He'd have heard that Ducati coming on the inside. Aldeguer taking the track initiative, although here comes Acosta. We know the KTM is the fastest Grand Prix motorcycle in history with a bit of slipstream into turn 1. Acosta surely is going to go in that little bit hot. Now these two have got previous. These two have history, don't they? Already in 2025, they've locked on so many occasions already. This is personal between Aldeguer and Acosta.
Aldeguer into the 130s on the last lap by passing Acosta, a 130.907. Personal best at each of the top 7, but Aldeguer the only rider in the field at the moment lapping in the 130s. Now that he's cleared Acosta's immediate challenge into turn 1, look at the distance he's already starting to pop between himself and Acosta, but that's how hard he's pushing.
Well, he checked out in the early part of the sprint yesterday when he got hit to the post right here on the last lap by Marco Bezzecchi at turn 10. This time around, after Bez's big crash on the first lap with Mark, he hasn't got to worry about the threat of the factory Aprilia star. Aldeguer then now, we go through turn 12. Already, he's been able to establish a lead in nearly 0.4 of a second, halfway around this lap 8. That gap's crept up to nearly half a second. Aldeguer's got the pace here to try and break this group behind him, hasn't he?
Tyre management is not something that Fermin Aldeguer has really struggled with in his rookie season in Austria. He was comfortably the fastest rider at the end of the Grand Prix, just setting a pace and setting a rhythm I'm sure that he feels comfortable with, and at the moment it's plenty fast enough to pull him away from Acosta.
Bastianini, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Alex Marquez, Marc Marquez, Grand Prix winners recently for the Gresini Ducati squad. And at the moment, Gresini could be adding a new name to the winning roster in the MotoGP World Championship. It's another hot lap, another scorching hot lap by Aldeguer, a 130.805.
Someone's down, it's Bagnaia down.
Bagnaia. Well, Pecco Bagnaia was dead last of nowhere in this Grand Prix. A dismal weekend, not just for Bagnaia, but for the factory Ducati team as well. He sort of sarcastically does the sort of gesture towards that factory Ducati, doesn't he? Into the final corner he goes. That front's going to just tuck from underneath him, isn't it? Right about there. He just sort of fell off the side of that factory Ducati, didn't he there, Pecco Bagnaia? Down
see that again
and well,
Australia, does he?
Down and well and truly out. Last and lost is Pecco Bagnaia in both the sprint and the Grand Prix.
This weekend, mercifully from his point of view, is finally over. Pedro Acosta's victory hopes are starting to fade fast here, aren't they? Aldeguer's now already the thick end of a second up the road, and it looks like Luca Marini's keen to clear that KTM and get off after Aldeguer.
This could be game over already. already as far as Aldeguer is concerned. He's just on a different level at the moment, just as rapid as Bezzecchi was in that sprint to Riem yesterday. Aldeguer, nobody's got any kind of response to him at the moment. Acosta then versus Marini in the battle for second. Those two can't shake off the attentions of Raul Fernandez, who's desperate for his first Grand Prix podium for Trackhouse. There's a big gap then back to Rins. It's another hot lap, and this one is a scorcher. A 1:30.499, 3 successive laps then now. Since he took the lead, Aldeguer's pace has been on a different level. A 1:30.499 was 7/10 faster than Acosta in second place. The only other rider on track that's in the 1:30s anywhere near Aldeguer was Marini in third, but he did a 1:30.9, half a second slower than Aldeguer.
He is disappearing off into the distance at the moment. The other Gresini Ducati is also making progress. Alex Marquez has now passed Fabio Quartararo, so he's up into 6th place. There's a bit of a queue forming up here, up behind Alex Rins, which takes you all the way back to 10th place as we rejoin the battle for second place between Acosta and Marini.
Back-to-back Grand Prix podiums for the factory Honda team. I feel like we put a time capsule back to sort of 2018, 2019 here. Joan Mir, of course, who took the honours last time out, but taking it. Here comes Marini, darting to the inside line there, through turn 12. That is the textbook move through that third gear left-hander. Acosta immediately tries to fight back. Marc Marquez has gone to the Circuit Medical Centre for what we hope is just some precautionary check-up. Some concerns, wasn't there, about his right shoulder. And so there's been no aggravation to the right humerus bone that he fractured, of course, caused all of his career-long problems to arrest in 2020. So now then Acosta fighting back. What this is doing, of course,
long gone.
this battle raging at the moment between Acosta and Marini as keeping Raul Fernandez in close attention. I was just about to say Alex Rins is just starting to really start to get his claws back into this battle. Fastest lap of the race so far from Rins, a 1:31.154, 1.2 seconds he is now behind Raul. This as a contest in Mandalika is over. Now these final 17 laps are just the ultimate test of Aldeguer's focus and his concentration. 2.5 seconds clear of Acosta. He started that last lap. That last lap, Aldeguer, check this out, 1.4 seconds quicker than Acosta, 1.2 seconds quicker than Marini. I mean, talk about a race of his own. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Of course, they were busy battling with each other, were Marini and Acosta. Acosta with that dive bomb packed through on Marini on the last lap, which did exaggerate that slightly. But even Rins, who set his personal best last time around, was 6/10 slower on a 1:31.1 as Pecco Bagnaia followed into the Ducati box by his sister Carola. I think he'll be heading directly from there to the airport.
Yeah, what a weekend. One of the worst weekends I can recall, really, for the factory Ducati team in recent history. Marc Marquez out on the first lap and in the medical centre, unfortunately, as there's more Mandalika misery for the 93. And Pecco Bagnaia, who was nearly 30 seconds and last in the sprint yesterday, crashing out of last place in the Grand Prix. Where does Bagnaia go from here? Last weekend in Japan, he was untouchable, he was uncatchable, pole position, sprint win, Grand Prix win. 7 days later, the plummet down the order, the sort of massive dip in fortune. I mean, it's very, very hard to fathom. It's actually very, very hard to comprehend just what the heck has happened to Bagnaia in the space of 7 days.
Well, he's got another couple of weeks to try and clear his head and try and reset again as we go to Australia in a couple of weeks' time. This battle for second place now is 3.3 seconds behind Fermin Aldeguer. I'll tell you what this is doing, it's bringing Rins and Alex Marquez firmly into the podium battle here. Alex Marquez was in the 1:30s last time round, the only other rider to Aldeguer, his teammate, and he's bringing himself right into play here in the battle for second, third, fourth and fifth.
Well, we're next to the beach here in Mandalika. We're getting closer. Aldeguer, we'll get his deck chair out and order a cocktail the way he's going. 3.6 seconds he is now up the road from this battle. Acosta doing a really good job in the air as Marini once again. Well, he's made this move once before, a couple of laps ago, going into turn 12. And Acosta, this time around, Marini goes ultra defensive.
Yes,
and now Raul Fernandez charges through on Acosta. That's very briefly up into third place. And Marini went really defensive into 13 as he knew he had to. He knows that's where Acosta was strong on the KTM.
Acosta's going to come back at this surely up the inside of Marini. You have to try and jump out of the way. Marini knows he's faster here, but Acosta's just not letting it go.
Well, you could just see Acosta there was using his peripheral vision. You could just see a tilt to his right with the head there as he was just making sure that there was enough enough room between himself and Marini. This is a real nail-biting battle, isn't it, for the final 2 places on the podium. Long gone in Lombok is Aldeguer. 4.3 seconds clear. He's still doing high 130s on 12-lap-old tyres, is Aldeguer. Acosta, Marini, then and Fernandez in this battle for 2nd and 3rd.
So now we've got Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo and Brad Binder also queuing up. So Pedro Acosta, in his spirited defence of 2nd place, is backing up, in all intents and purposes, the rest of the top 10 now.
Enea Bastianini, who has had a shocking weekend, an absolutely dreadful weekend here in Mandalika. He has just pitted on the Tech 3 KTM. They're already missing Maverick Vinales after his withdrawal pre-sprint yesterday. 3 crashes across the course of the weekend, and the Beast back in pit lane. So now we've got 40 runners in this Mandalika Grand Prix. A lot of them on screens in one shot there, weren't they, as they powered through 12. It's still Acosta who's doing an unbelievable job. Well, he's like sort of the slowest in rush hour right now, is he, Pedro Acosta, just making himself as wide as he possibly can at the moment. Head, knees, shoulders, everything as wide as he could possibly make it to keep the likes of Marini, Fernandez, Rins, Alex Marquez, Quartararo, Binder and Miller are all canked up right behind the Spaniard at the moment.
Well, Marini must be thinking, I might have to do what Marc Marquez did to my teammate Joan Mir in Motegi in the sprint last weekend, where he just dive-bombed him, blocked past him and sent him off to the edge of the racetrack. The problem that Marini's got, if he tries something like that, is that Ralph Fernandez, Alex Rins, Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo and others are all queued up right behind him. So he's in a bit of a rock and a hard place here, Marini. He's got to make the move. He's got to make it clinically and precisely. But of course, if he goes too aggressive, he could lose a place.
There's Enea Bastianini in the top left-hand corner of your screens, looking thoroughly miffed and cheesed off with life at the moment, isn't he? Because we thought when there was the sprint podium in Brno and the Grand Prix podium in Catalonia that Enea had turned the corner on that unruly RC16, which he really struggled to adapt to from the factory Ducati at the start of this year. But he said this weekend, I feel like I'm back to square one, no confidence in the bike. He described his situation on Friday as critical. A confidence crisis, to say the least, right now for the Beast. No crisis of confidence for Aldeguer, who is completely gone now. 5 seconds. He's built his lead for the first time in this Grand Prix. It is still
His medium rear tyre hangs on here, because of course we have seen Acosta and KTM go through their tyres. Here comes Ralph Fernandez. If Marini's not going to go on the attack, then Ralph Fernandez is more than happy to.
Yeah, he just parked in the middle of that turn 16. He's got the inside. Oh! Big rub there between Ralph Fernandez and Marini. That's allowed the door wide open for Alex Rins to move up into the podium places. Alex Rins' last podium was his win, of course, for LCR Honda back at Austin in 2023. Alex Marquez now picks up Ralph Fernandez. Marini almost lost the front, didn't he, going into the braking zone for the first corner. So Marini, in the blink of an eye, has gone from fighting for P2 down to 8th.
That's exactly the problem I was describing a lap ago. If you don't get it right, if you don't get Acosta dealt with quickly, then there are so many riders queuing up behind you to pile on the agony. Quartararo there with a head shake on board his Yamaha. There are a good 8 or 9 riders here, all battling for the 2 remaining spots on the podium.
Jack Miller just put in his best lap of this Grand Prix, 1:31.175. Thankfully, with a runaway leader with Aldeguer, 5.5 seconds up the road, the battle for the podium places behind him, well, it's an absolute thriller.
It's the rest of the race.
It's a nail-biter, isn't it? We've got Acosta, Rins. This was the move then by Ralph Fernandez. There's going to be big contact there as Marini squeezed him on the inside, as he was perfectly entitled to do. And then that allowed Alex Rins to sweep on through. It's given Acosta his biggest breather in that second place for a good number of laps. And now Alex charges towards Alex of the Rins version.
Yeah, there's a Grassini 1-2 coming up here if Alex Marquez plays his cards right, because he's now had to do virtually no work to go through on Ralph Fernandez and Luca Marini. He's now up behind Alex Rins, and then, well, Pedro Acosta, it feels like he's a bit of a sitting duck, but boy, is he doing a good job of playing the ultimate spoiler role in second place.
Alex Rins has not scored a single point in the last 3 Grand Prix, yet here he is on the podium places here. Marco Bezzecchi has had to take a trip to the medical centre. Alex Rins, 1:31.096 on that last. That was his best of this Grand Prix so far. This would be some story. There'll be some emotion if Alex Rins was able to take a podium here after all of his injury nightmares that came his way. The real serious leg fracture he suffered in the Italian Grand Prix in Mugello back in 2023, shortly after one of the best days of his career, winning that Austin battle for Lucio Cecchinello's satellite squad. But here he is on the factory Yamaha, best we've seen by Rins in 2 years.
Miller was absolutely sideways on his Yamaha going into turn one, nearly cleaned out Luca Marini, fortunately missed him. They're battling in the back of the picture for 8th and 9th places. So this battle behind Fermin Aldeguer, a long way behind him, except for Johan Zarco and Solskjaer Chantra on their LCR Hondas, this is the rest of the race.
Yeah, this is not Moto3, this is MotoGP. It's not the first lap either. We've got a gap between Acosta and Gian Antonio, 2nd to 12th, of just over 3 seconds. Acosta it is that is still holding on to this second place. One of the hardest earned 20 points potentially coming the way of the 21-year-old Spaniard. Rins there still in 3rd place. We know what a class rider Alex Rins has been down the years. Some of his Grand Prix victories in the past were in some of the best battles we've ever seen. That epic fight with Marc Marquez at Silverstone a few years ago. Winning for Suzuki at Phillip Island 2 or 3 years ago stands out in mind as well. He's won some classy battles, hasn't he, Alex Rins? Can he get the better of some of his rivals here and take that elusive podium?
Well, Fermin Aldeguer has got absolutely no idea of the incredible entertainment that's playing out behind him. He's just riding his own race, just joining the dots, just hitting all his apexes, hitting all his braking markers. As you said earlier on, this is a test of the Fermin Aldeguer concentration. This is trademarks, signs of the Aldeguer of Moto2 in his pump.
He's been ridiculously good. He's been ludicrously good. I mean, his pace, he's still doing 130.7s on 16-lap old tyres as Rins closes right in on Acosta's rear tyre. Prima Yamaha battle ensuing between Miller and Oliveira. That's in the hands right now of Miller. Oliveira made a mistake on the brakes into turn 10. He's allowed Morbidelli to sweep on through as well. So Oliveira drops outside of the top 10.
Yeah, Morbidelli now into 10th place. Gian Antonio still at the back of his train in 12th place. Pedro Acosta is doing 31.4s just to show the pace that he's backing the rest of the field into. Johan Zarco in 13th place to set his personal best. He's faster than Acosta in 2nd place right now.
Alex Rins felt like he was denied the opportunity to fight for the podium in the sprint yesterday after the contact early on the first lap at turn 10 from Marc, which put the 93 in the long lap penalty loop. Making amends, isn't he, big time though? At the moment is Rins on that factory Yamaha. Making amends for his disappointment yesterday was Aldeguer. Acosta, fair play, Acosta. We said he was digging deep. How big is this shovel right now? 131.107, a PB lap from Pedro on that lap 17.
Well, wherever he's found it from, it's a good job he did, because it's now starting to stretch this pack back out again. That were crawling all over the back of Acosta. He's actually now the fastest rider on the racetrack. He's looked like the slowest for much of this Grand Prix, even though he's been running in 2nd place.
Raul Fernandez still right in the hunt, or is he just maybe losing a little bit of touch with Acosta, Rins and Alex Marquez directly ahead of him? Another brilliant, this will be an equal best 5th place on a Sunday Grand Prix MotoGP for Raul Fernandez. Further back than there is Binder. He's keeping that 7th spot ahead of Marini. Marini paying dearly for almost washing out the front end going into turn 1 a few laps ago. 2nd, wasn't he, briefly, albeit briefly, before he dropped back to the 8th place, which he currently still occupies.
Oliveira and Gian Antonio having a massive battle in the back of the picture. They're at the tail of this train, on behind Acosta. At the moment, you've got to say, we're into the sort of final third of this Grand Prix now, which is the danger zone for that soft rear tyre. But no signs at the moment of Alex Rins in particular, and Fabio Quartararo on his Yamaha on that soft rear tyre. No sign of them dropping off just yet.
It doesn't feel like there was only one rider capable of matching Fermin Aldeguer in this Grand Prix. Sadly, that was Marco Bezzecchi, who took himself out of contention on the first lap in that real super scary high-speed crash with Marc Marquez. Alex Marquez, and at the moment 4th in the sprint, 4th in the Grand Prix. Acosta's found back-to-back PB laps in this Grand Prix. You can clearly see Aldeguer has just happened to slightly back off his pace. I mean, a 131.2 from Aldeguer is a snail's pace compared to the laps he's been producing throughout this Grand Prix. Acosta, 131.085. This is half a second clear of Rins.
That was the pace that ultimately broke the back of this Grand Prix. That succession of laps, around about 10 in a row, wasn't it? All in the 130s. He now drops off to a pace that he's more than happy with. Of course, he doesn't want to slack off too much, because that is when your concentration can very easily drop.
Well, he was signed, a high-profile signing by Ducati before the Moto2 World Championship started last year in 2024 with Alex Rins. It's getting better and better, this, isn't it, for the battery Yamaha rider. Briefly through on Acosta into 12. We know how good Acosta's been on that left-hander through 13, but Alex Rins then now, where has this performance come from Rins? As we mentioned, he hadn't scored a single point in the last 3 Grand Prix. A few people were saying, well, he was pretty fortunate to hang on to his factory Yamaha seat in 2026, but he is showing once again he's a top-notch, top-level rider, a class act, isn't he, Alex Rins? And now he's in the P2.
Although he's going to be under pressure here because the Yamaha is not a match for the KTM in a straight line, and Pedro Acosta's just going to breeze straight past him. He's up the inside. Can he break as late as Rins, though? Rins really did leave it late on the brakes there, and Acosta has to stay behind.
That was some aggression on the brakes there by Rins as well. Bearing in mind he's on the soft front compared to Acosta's medium front, so you'd feel having the better endurance, the better durability at this late stage of the Grand Prix would be Acosta's medium front tyre choice. In that lead group, Aldeguer, Rins, Alex Marquez and Ralph Fernandez, they're all on the soft front. Fabio Quartararo on the hard. This is all about now. Rins use the agility of the Yamaha through this sector 2 just to try and break away from Acosta. Just make sure that he's not going to allow Acosta any kind of chance to snatch back that second place. In fact, Acosta's maybe got more pressing matters to contend with Alex all over his rear tyre now.
Oh, he's wide there through turn 11 as well. That's going to put him on the wrong line into 12, and now Alex Marquez will go to run into turn 13 where he crashed earlier on in the weekend, but Acosta once again so good through this left of 13 and actually closes up on Rins.
Acosta's been one of the races of his life here, hasn't he, in this Grand Prix. So too is Rins. Can't take your eyes, can you, off this battle for second place? Just a reminder, Aldeguer is at 7.6 seconds clear now of everybody else on circuit, as Binder and Miller.
Binder and
Quartararo having a bit of a battle further down. Aldeguer's already over the line. 8 seconds now he is clear of Alex Rins. Rins under big pressure. He lifts that Michelin rear tyre in the air, just gives you a clear indication of just how hard Alex Rins was having to work that front tyre rear, floating around in the air, desperate to keep Acosta and Marquez behind him.
Yeah, Ralph Fernandez not out of his eye then. Binder then jumping straight onto the back of Ralph Fernandez. Binder did a 31.2 last time around. He was the fastest rider in this train up behind what is now, of course, the 42 of Alex Rins.
Only one top 10 this year for Alex Rins. That came at the Sachsenring in Germany. I don't think anybody pre-Mandalika Grand Prix would have been predicting this. Alex Rins second, an absolute runaway success for Fermin Aldeguer. This has been an epic battle, hasn't it? It's been keeping us on the edge of our seats throughout this Indonesian Grand Prix, because Fermin Aldeguer is going to be threatening one of the biggest dry race winning margins in MotoGP history. Surely if he carries on 8.5 seconds clear now of Rins.
Well, watching somewhere at home, I'm sure in Europe, is Jorge Martin, who's a mentor in many respects to Fermin Aldeguer. He knows very well that a victory is never secured here in Mandalika until you take the checkered flag. So even with a near 9-second lead over this battle, Fermin Aldeguer cannot rest yet.
What a battle this is, as Acosta's front tyre kisses Alex Rins' rear tyre there now as they go through the final corner. Aldeguer already on lap 21 and 27. 8.7 seconds clear. Lap 22 we're on now. And Acosta coming from a long way back. How good is Alex Rins on the brakes on that factory Yamaha into that first corner? He has been absolutely dynamite on the front end of that M1.
We've got a good front end, don't we? And Rins is proving it at the moment. Nothing to choose between their lap times last time round. There is absolutely nothing between them. Alex Marquez with the best queue in the house at the moment in 4th place, hoping that something kicks off ahead to open the door for him.
I suppose the big question mark hanging over Rins right now is how much, having got through to second place, has he overworked that soft rear tyre? There's only him, Fabio Quartararo and Miguel Oliveira out on circuit that are on that soft rear tyre. You've got to say Alex is doing a phenomenal job. Alex Marquez pings it on the inside of Acosta into turn 10. Acosta desperately trying to fight back. I mean, really anybody from Rins down to Fabio Di Gianantonio.
He's now doing 130.
Still got a shout, you know, here. Still got a proper crack at the podium.
Well, PR46 will be watching to Gian Antonio and saying, why are you now doing 1:30.9s back in 11th place? You've left it late, possibly too late. Acosta just does not know when he's beaten. Surely he's going to cut back through on Alex Marquez. He's going to give it a good go.
This is going to be a huge day in terms of the championship for Alex Marquez. Surely this is the final leap towards securing second overall in the standings, potentially 16 points coming the way of Alex, maybe an extra 4 if he's able to find a way through on Rins into second place, and he gets to drive coming out that final corner. Alex Rins, I just wonder if he's starting to suffer. I wonder if he's starting to suffer with that soft rear tyre here. And let's go down to pit lane. Jack Appleyard with Davide Tardozzi for a Marc Marquez update.
Yeah, Davide, just very quickly, can you just update us on Marc's condition?
Yeah, there is an evidence of break on the right shoulder, but we need a TAC to investigate deeper and understand if it's necessary in operation or not.
Thanks, Davide.
Thanks very much, Jack, and thanks to Davide Tardozzi for coming to speak to us for another painful experience for Marc Marquez. Talk about the ups and downs as a professional motorcycle racer. 7 days after one of the highlights of his Grand Prix career, 7 days after lifting that 7th MotoGP World title, Marc Marquez potentially fracture to his right shoulder or the right collarbone. That was his initial concern, wasn't it? After the contact from Marco Bezzecchi. Oh, that's a tough one for Marte, because Acosta then now goes back on the inside of Rins. I think Rins has just completely barbecued that soft rear tyre.
Well, it was a bit of a telltale sign, wasn't it? The lack of drive he got coming out of the final corner. The rear just spinning up, and Alex Rins now potentially, after such a fantastic afternoon, is now plummeting backwards through the field. Raul Fernandez and Brad Binder now both going through. Can Binder get through on Raul Fernandez? We know Raul's not easy to shift through this final corner. So Raul Fernandez now 4th, Binder 5th, and Rins now back behind, or back with his teammate Quartararo in 6th and 7th.
Rins has started that lap 2nd. He finishes it down in 6th place. He's really suffering at the moment. Big time. Binder now sends it on the inside of Raul Fernandez, all bit briefly. No, he chops back across the nose of the Trackhouse Prix rider. Now 9.1 seconds clear, and the front is Fermin Aldeguer, who's in a different postcode at the moment, isn't he? Alex then now 2nd. Acosta looks like 3rd. That could be it in terms of the podium battle. It looks like now there's a bit of a gap that's emerged back to Binder.
Binder's won a sprint, of course, from 15th on the grid before, back in Argentina a couple of years ago. So let's see now if he can, having cleared a lot of this traffic, whether he can now close back up to his teammate Pedro Acosta, who is not letting Alex Marquez away with this. We are now 3.5 laps away from a Gresini Ducati 1-2.
So our outgoing MotoGP World Champion Jorge Martin sidelined with a shoulder injury from here, amplified potentially Marc Marquez sideline as Alex Rins' Sunday goes a little bit pear-shaped late on here, doesn't it? Alex's motto was just obviously go for broke, go hell for leather on that soft tyre, defend for as much as he possibly could, but he's really suffering at the moment. Rins is a bit of a passenger now on top of that Monster Energy Yamaha M1.
Yeah, his bold strategy looks like it's going to fall around 5 or 6 laps short, because he was looking so good. Look, he can't even get it turned in to turn 16. His teammate now, Fabio Quartararo, goes through into 7th place. So it's a Gresini Ducati 1-2. It's a factory KTM 3-4. And now we've got Jack Miller on the floor, so one of the Pramac Yamahas is now out of the action.
Acosta, Pedro Acosta on the 24th lap of 27 has just found a 1:31.053. He's a scrapper. He's a proper fighter, isn't he? That barroom brawler, Pedro Acosta, just love to watch the way he's attacked this Grand Prix. Oh dear me, he has given every last ounce of sweat and effort, hasn't he, in this race, and he's trying desperately to get back through on Alex Marquez for 2nd.
Well, when Alex Marquez got through into 2nd place, he must have breathed a big sigh of relief when he passed Rins and thought, well, that's all the hard work done. But Pedro Acosta is just not letting him rest on this. He's definitely going to come on the inside. Of course he is. Acosta's not going to give this 2nd place up.
Now, conventional wisdom should suggest that Acosta's going to have the better front tyre underneath him at this stage of the race. The medium front should be giving him the better endurance compared to Alex Marquez's soft front tyre choice. Evidence of a fracture on Marc Marquez's right shoulder. The worst possible news for how your fortunes can be completely turned upside down in the space of 1 week. Only evidence at this stage, of course, there'll be further medical checks. Let's just hope that Marc Marquez is back on track sooner rather than later. It was a super scary incident between him and Bezzecchi right on the very first lap of this Grand Prix. Fermin Aldeguer. Well, he's already on the penultimate lap here in Mandalika. His advantage is massive, it is huge. 9 seconds clear of Acosta, who looks like he has broken Alex Marquez. As much as Alex Rins took out of his soft rear tyre, Rins has now gone down to 10th place. It looks like Alex Marquez has done the same to his soft front here, doesn't it, late on?
So could he yet reverse back towards Brad Binder? Could we still have 2 factory KTMs on the podium? Binder from 15th now up to 4th. Alex Marquez in 3rd place. It will be a welcome podium and 16 points, which would move him 88th clear of Pecco Bagnaia for 2nd in the championship if he hangs on to that.
Only twice previously have 2 KTMs featured on the same podium. Styria back in 2020, and most recently Binder and Miller at the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez a couple of years ago. Might just run out of time here late on. Binder. He's 2nd behind Alex as we come through the halfway point of this lap 26 of 27. What a moment this is potentially going to be for Fermin Aldeguer, as Marini retaliating late on from the fast-fading Raul Fernandez.
Well, Marini's going to be livid at how that battle played out with Raul Fernandez earlier on in the Grand Prix. He'll be thinking that's cost him a podium finish, because he's now siding back through the pack, back towards where he was, but of course he was the rider up behind Acosta.
He was almost on the floor though, wasn't he? Mick after losing the front going into the first corner, which cost him a whole chunk of time as well. But there he is then now, honing in on Binder in 4th. Last lap underway. What a moment in the career, the very young career of Fermin Aldeguer. 4.3 kilometres away from history. We thought he was going to be the youngest rider ever to win a sprint. He certainly looks like he's going to be the first rookie to win a MotoGP race since Jorge Martin 4 years ago in 2021. They can barely watch the screens, can they, inside the Gresini racing garage?
Well, no one doubted the talent of Fermin Aldeguer. Of course, he was signed a year out from his MotoGP debut. So many expected to waltz to the Moto2 title last season. That didn't quite pan out. He has had some rocky moments in his MotoGP rookie season, but this, without question, the highest of highs for Fermin Aldeguer.
This is why Gigi Dall'Igna and all of the senior Ducati management wanted to get the prized signature of Aldeguer before he even turned the wheel in anger in last year's Moto2 World Championship. They saw something special. They saw a great talent, a great start of the future emerging as Marini's late charge, his late rally threatens to take 4th place away from Binder. But what a performance this has been by Fermin Aldeguer. Marco Bezzecchi and Marc Marquez out of contention on the first lap here in what was a dramatic start to this Mandalika race. A nod of the head, a nod of approval from Aldeguer as he comes out of the final corner. It has been, without question, phenomenal Fermin Aldeguer here in the Grand Prix of Indonesia. What a performance, what a dominant victory by the rookie. He becomes the first rookie to win since Jorge Martin, the outgoing world champion, back in Styria in 2021. The emotions pour out inside BK8 Gresini. Enea Bastianini, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Alex and Marc Marquez, previous winners for the Italian team in MotoGP. Well, we can now add Fermin Aldeguer's name to that illustrious list. His first MotoGP victory, and he did it in some sensational style. What a win. Completely on a different level today was Aldeguer. Further back, huge credit goes to Pedro Acosta, who had to fight so hard for 2nd. Alex Marquez is on the podium despite the late charge from Binder and Marini. Raul Fernandez is on the top 6. Quartararo, Morbidelli, Di Gianantonio, Rins inside the top 10. Rins really did suffer late on. 2nd, a youngest ever MotoGP winner. Out in that controversial incident on the first lap, but take nothing away, take absolutely nothing away from an incredible performance by the fantastic Fermin Aldeguer, a MotoGP winner for the first time. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Michele Massini, who's the jack.
Michele, what a day for me, a MotoGP race winner. How good does that sound?
Actually, we won with all our riders in our short Ducati history. But so proud. How much talent he has, Fermin. And I have to say that this weekend we closed the circle. We made everything perfect from the practice.
till now, and really proud.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, awesome job. They've got so much to be proud of, as he said, since they joined Ducati. Gresini, they've had victories with all of their riders. Luca Marini, 5th place for the Italian. A case of so near yet so far. He was briefly a couple of times, wasn't he, second in what was a real intense and heated battle with Pedro Acosta. Acosta, how on earth did he drag that KTM around to 2nd place? That was some performance.
Well, boy, will they be celebrating in Murcia today. Fermin Aldeguer and Pedro Acosta, both from the same part of Spain, 1 and 2 today. Alex Marquez has secured the top independent rider prize for 2025. That wasn't really much down from the start of the season. But Fermin Aldeguer, if you're going to win your first MotoGP race, that is how to do it. Grab the lead at the start and never looked back. Of course, denied so heartbreakingly so on the last lap of the sprint yesterday. No one saw which way he went today.
Binder fought his way through to 4th place on the grid. He gets the plaudits, quite rightly so, from his Red Bull KTM squad. A second away from making it a very rare double podium for KTM. Aldeguer becomes a 37th different winner in MotoGP. Aldeguer is going to get the headlines, but one of the heroes of that Indonesian round was clearly Pedro Acosta, second for the Spaniard. Let's get the thoughts of his crew chief, Paul Travassos.
I tell you what, Paul, you've got yourself a fighter in Pedro. He didn't give up there.
Nah, mate, I think we owe the 2nd place to him for sure, because the bike didn't look so good at the beginning of the race, and he found some way of blocking and fighting, so fair play to him. Cheers, brother, thank you.
Yeah, great job by Pedro Acosta's crew, and as Paul Travassos acknowledging there, that one was down to the rider. That one was down to pure talent and tenacity. He was never going to give up that podium, was he? Acosta, great job. Special scenes though right now for Gresini Racing. MotoGP winners once again with the super talented, what a star in the making Fermin Aldeguer is. Just 20 years of age, winner in MotoGP. In the 76-year history of Grand Prix motorcycle racing, only one rider has won in the Premier class at a younger age, and he's one of the best to ever do it. That was Marc Marquez, of course, when he won his first MotoGP battle at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. A possible right collarbone fracture then for Marc Marquez. He's going to immediately travel home to Spain for further scans and further examination. The reason why Marc is heading for more hospital appointments is this incident on the first lap going through turn 7. A real scary one for both Marc and for Marco Bezzecchi. Coming out the worst of it, unfortunately, it does look like it is the new world champion as he holds that right arm, a suspected right collarbone fracture for the 7-time world champion. Let's go down then for some more reaction down in Parc Fermé. Fermin Aldeguer's crew chief, Frankie Carcetti. He's done it again, Jack. Frankie, a winner.
Frankie, as the guys just said, you've done it again. Joan Mir, Fabio Di Antonio, Marc Marquez, and now you've taken this rookie to MotoGP success.
It's unreal. Honestly, we were a little bit of difficulty this morning. Didn't really go well this morning in warm-up, but just made a really small change between warm-up and race, and well, I'm speechless. Honestly, did an incredible job.
Congratulations.
Frankie Carcetti, speechless. No wonder Gigi Dall'Igna is wearing a massive grin, because he was one of the key influences in making sure as so many factories circled around Fermin Aldeguer's signature for 2025. Of course, he had the big carrot to dangle of a Ducati GP24, the World Championship winning motorcycle from last year. Well, it was a real mixed bag, a real mixed day, wasn't it, for Ducati. Aldeguer triumphing in that Grand Prix as Paco Bagnaia get absolutely mullered off the line there. He was last going into the first corner. This is a sight that nobody wanted to see. Let's wish Marc Marquez a very, very rapid recovery, as he's already got the arm in a sling. The right collarbone fracture. He's still able to smile. But of course, 7 days after winning the world title in Japan, he is brought crashing back down to earth with an almighty bump and bank, and he's already about to make his way out of the Mandalika paddock and start the long journey home. It will be an uncomfortable flight back now to Europe for Mark, as he will start to process what is going to be another right limb recovery.
It could be worse, he's saying to Izaskun from DAZN there. Of course, for Marc Marquez, he's been through a lot worse in his career as the emotion begins to pour out of Fermin Aldeguer. He has not been through the traditional route up to MotoGP. Never saw him in Moto3, of course. Came through the European Moto2 Championship. He was given a chance in Moto2 at Grand Prix level by Luca Boscoscuro and the speed-up team, where he immediately demonstrated his talents. That propelled him up to MotoGP.
Absolutely shattered, absolutely exhausted, isn't he? Alex Marquez, who's I think just trying to seek some shade down in Parc Fermé. Let's get the thoughts though of Alex. Third in that real tough Grand Prix. He's with Jack.
Alex, we can see you've given absolutely everything there to get onto the podium in such a difficult race. Just give us your thoughts afterwards.
Yeah, well, quite happy with the race. I mean, I did a mistake on the start. You know, I had a problem and I lost a lot of position. And later on, you know, I started to come a little bit, and I was a little bit better every lap, but overtaking is so difficult. So, really happy. Congrats to my teammate Fermin. He done an amazing weekend, amazing race. So yeah, for us, really important to be here in the podium here in Mandalika.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
He is absolutely on his knees, isn't he? Alex Marquez, 8th at one stage in the early part of that Grand Prix. There is Alex Rins, who fought such a good fight. We were daring to dream, weren't we, that Alex Rins was going to end his own injury hell. First podium beckoned for him in 2.5 years, but just went too fast, too soon on that soft rear tyre. And Alex Rins dropped down to 10th place. What a ride. What a talent Pedro Acosta is. Dragging that KTM around to 2nd place. He's with Jack.
Pedro, huge congratulations onto the podium here in Mandalika. Have you ever had to fight harder for a podium?
I mean, we know where our bike is struggling. We were super slow whole weekend in Sector 2, and they make the difference there for this. We have to be happy all the time in the podium. We was many races already that we have a good rhythm and a good potential, maybe not for win, but to be constantly in the podium for this. I want to thank KTM, my crew chief, my mechanics, all the guys, also Danny and Paul that for sure are watching this from the TV. We have to improve, but we are not that far like the beginning of the year.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, what a job. Still not where he wants to be. He wants to be in Fermin Aldeguer's place in Parc Fermé, but what a fighter. He really did have to work so hard. I mean, Acosta was in battles with Marini, with Raul Fernandez, briefly with Aldeguer at the front of that Grand Prix early on. Under pressure as well he was from Alex Rins. Well, he stopped the tears, but he's going to start the celebrations very soon. Another special day for Gresini Race. You can see right there in the middle of the celebrations, there's the boss, Nadia Padovani, who made a vow and a pledge to her late husband Fausto that the show will go on. We will not give up. We will continue in your name and in your honour. Thankfully they did, because Gresini Racing, what a team they have turned into. They're going to easily clinch 2nd place in the Team World Championship and a double podium. Fermin Aldeguer just seeking some shade, just to compose himself. Another embrace from his partner before he's going to come and speak to Jack. After one of the most memorable days of his life, certainly the best day of his Grand Prix career, as for the very first time we can say, Fermin Aldeguer, MotoGP race winner.
Fermin, huge congratulations. One of the most dominant debut wins in MotoGP history. Can you believe what you've just achieved?
I don't believe, no. I'm super happy. I have a lot of words to say. Thank you all my people, all my family, the Ducati, Gresini team. To be rookie, we are doing an incredible work. We knew also before than this race, nothing. We have to continue like this. This is not for relax. It's for more. And yeah, thank you everyone.
Congratulations. Thank you.
That was some way to open your account as a MotoGP race winner, wasn't it? For Fermin Aldeguer. His head sinks onto the tank of that Ducati GP24 as he starts to really understand the size of the achievement he's pulled off here in Mandalika. That sprint, that last lap sprint defeat to Marco Bezzecchi, well, that already feels like a long, long time ago, doesn't it now? As the emotions start flowing inside the Gresini garage, Frankie Carcetti, well, he has backed and guided another winner in MotoGP. Second youngest MotoGP winner, as we mentioned, 20 years and 183 days. I think this actually was his last chance to be the second youngest winner. So perfect timing as far as Fermin Aldeguer is concerned. He gives a little tap on the fairing to a Ducati GP24, which as a pairing, as a combo here in Mandalika, was simply too good, too hot to handle.
Generally, when he won in Moto2, he won by a mile. That was trademark Fermin Aldeguer. He's going to do quite a bit of winning, you fancy, in his MotoGP career. The first of quite a few. Frankie Carcetti just on the right-hand side there as you look. Crew chief, of course, who brought Joan Mir all the way to the top of MotoGP. Of course, Grand Prix winner too with Fabio Di Gianantonio in Gresini colours, and of course Marc Marquez last year, and Fermin Aldeguer to an illustrious list.
He becomes just the 15th rider from Spain to win in the MotoGP World Championship. 123rd Premier Class winner, the 37th in the modern era, a four-stroke in MotoGP. He is some talent. He has always been one to watch. And you'll just feel now that with that monkey off his back, with nobody sort of wondering, well, when will Aldeguer win his first MotoGP race? He's clearly got the talent. Well, he's just going to go from strength to strength. It looks like the ligaments in Marc Marquez's collarbone are broken. Sometimes it's ligaments and muscles and tendons, which can take a lot longer than broken bones to remedy and rectify. This is the reason why it's going to be a long and painful trip back to Europe for Marc Marquez. Damage, suspected damage, a fracture to the right collarbone. He knew straight away, didn't he, that there was some issue. That was a real horrendous incident involving Marc and Bezzecchi.
He visto Marc que iba así y una moto súper cerca de él. Buah, qué larga se me ha hecho un sobat. Normal, tío, ahí delante.
Ahora iba este yo el lado, me veía por la 5 y digo, no puede ser, no puede ser que
iba fresquito, ¿no? Al menos. Yo no sé ni cómo iba, man. Mira. Pam, Bezzecchi, pam. No. Oh, sí, se ha caído. Wow. Sí, se ha roto algo, no sé qué es, pero... ¿Se ha roto? Buah, pues tu hermano ha tenido suerte ahí que no lo ha enganchado. Hola. Vale, tío, lo primero que he preguntado. Yo me he cojonado, tío, iba ahí, lo he visto por la... Claro, lo he visto, mira, pum, he visto una moto roja y digo, guau. Oh, mira a tu hermano. Pero es que habéis visto cómo está la grava, es una mierda. Está muy... Hay un escalón. Sí, siempre pasa lo mismo, tío. Hasta que no pasa algo, no sé, Ochoa. Hay veces que son así, es imposible que no te pase nada. Ay, ¿peco? Qué rara. Yo este año, ¿dónde fue que se fue por los brazos? ¿Cómo? En Jerez, porque entras y hay el escalón y ¡pum! Tiene que ser como de menos a más, casi. Ahí la he parado porque digo, me la va a devolver. Ya te he visto que delante no dio manera. No. Yo igual. Me recordabas a Marc, en esas cuando va delante no va y luego se pone detrás y ¡buah! Y tú has hecho lo mismo con Rin. Porque te pillábamos mucho y luego cuando estabas con Rin...
Sí, me pegaba así. Por lo menos el T3 y el 4 lo salvaba.
Yo igual, cuando iba detrás de Pedro, ahí, era súper fácil llegar a la 10 y pasar. Ya, pero es raro porque Rin iba con la SO, iba muy rápido en la 8, pero luego en la 12 y la 13 no tenía tracción. Qué raro. ¿Sabes? Y era izquierda igual.
Por ejemplo, tenía muy poco grip. Cuando me ha pasado mal,
pero en la 8,
sí.
a lo mejor la sobrecalentaba. Puede ser, no sé.
Well, they're tired, They're drained, but they are delighted and delirious to boot as well, aren't they? The top three, they're just processing what just unfolded over 27 laps of pure theatre here in Mandalika. The outcome is Aldeguer, Acosta and Alex Marquez on the podium, with injury concerns for Marc Marquez with a potential fractured and ligament damage. Small concern linked to his right shoulder. Of course, no news as yet on the condition of Marco Bezzecchi. We know that he did obviously come back to the factory at Prix garage. He's, I believe, still in the medical centre for some precautionary checks. But here we go then. This will be a memorable Mandalika podium as far as Fermin Aldeguer is concerned, as he comes to the top step for the first time in MotoGP.
And fittingly it is his crew chief, Frankie Carcetti, who will take the winning constructor prize on behalf of Gresini and Ducati. Such a central part of Fermin Aldeguer's rookie story. Well, Alex Marquez adds to what is a long list of podiums that is now double figures for him. 10th Grand Prix podium of the season. Pedro Acosta, well, it's second for the second year running here in Mandalika in very, very different circumstances. He's had fourth, second place of his MotoGP career. But the first victory for Fermin Aldeguer, it does not get much more special than that. Leading from start to finish, and with plenty to spare. Fermin Aldeguer, magnificent. So the winning constructor prize accepted by Frankie Carcetti, crew chief to Fermin Aldeguer at the Gresini Ducati team. What a day that is for the whole Gresini squad. An absolutely spent Alex Marquez, just about with the energy to lift the third place trophy, and all but secures the runner-up spot and the Marquez family double in the World Championship. Pedro Acosta claims his third Sunday podium of the season. Of course, they've all come in the last 8 Grand Prix. He worked so hard for that. But absolutely miles clear of that incredible battle for second place. He's already won here by a mile in Moto2, but this is extra special. The second youngest MotoGP winner in history, Fermin Aldeguer.
Fermin Aldeguer gets the fantastic feeling then of being a MotoGP winner for the first time. Pedro Acosta in those early laps made him fight for it, but he just played the patient game, fighting his way through on lap 7.
So young, he can't even spray the Prosecco on the podium. That's how young Fermin Aldeguer is.
We're going to wait about another 150 odd days. Make sure you do it this time next year. Fermin, you'll be able to sample some of that race-winning Prosecco. Alex Marquez, one of the toughest 27 laps I think we've seen for Alex. You can see under the podium there, on the bags, the fans under the podium have been getting a bit of a Prosecco shower. And he gives himself a round of applause, Fermin Aldeguer, quite rightfully so. A great weekend for the Spanish rider. A close, very close second to Bezzecchi in yesterday's sprint. but making amends. That's how you put behind you disappointments. And he was disappointed. So much for him to be proud of at the end of that sprint yesterday, but of course he wanted to win. He thought he had the win before it was taken away just 7 corners from the end of the sprint. But today's Grand Prix victory, while it was never really under any serious threat once he got through on Acosta on lap 7, first time Pedro Acosta has led a Sunday Grand Prix since Austin, all the way back at the start of his impressive rookie season last year. What a fight Acosta put up in that Grand Prix over 27 laps. 6.9 seconds was the gap between the top two. It could have been more had Aldeguer continued to push. He was in full chill mode, full relaxed mode on the last lap at 1:33.320. Still put him nearly 7 seconds clear of anybody else. That's for the first time, and certainly not the last. Continuing Brazili Racing's wonderful last 3 or 4 years. Anea Bastianini, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Mark and Alex Marquez, and now Fermin Aldeguer, then a winner for the Italian squad. Smiles all round. He's going to soak it all up now, soak it in, because we get a little bit of a breather after an intense start, don't we, to our Asia Pacific tour, after visits to Japan and now to Indonesia. Well, it's another breathtaking coastal setting, isn't it, as we head south from Lombok to the mesmerising Phillip Island. The Australian Grand Prix up next on the calendar. 4 rounds remaining. Will we have Marc Marquez on the grid? He's got to be a serious injury doubt for that Australian round, having been cleaned out on the first lap of that Grand Prix here in Mandalika by Marco Bezzecchi. His dream Saturday, as mentioned, turned into a nightmare Sunday for Bez. But it's Fermin Aldeguer then, first time winner in MotoGP.
Fantastic, Fermin Aldeguer winning by 7 seconds. He was further ahead than that before he celebrated on the last lap. Acosta second, and boy did he work hard for that. Alex Marquez in 3rd place, cementing 2nd place in the championship surely now. Brad Binder 15th to 4th, Luca Marini 5th ahead of Raul Fernandez. Fabio Quartararo leading Yamaha home 7th ahead of Frankie Morbidelli, Fabio Di Gianantonio, and Alex Rins, who was 2nd at one point. His soft rear tyre faded so much that he fell back to 10th. Miguel Oliveira 11th ahead of Johan Zarco. Songkyak Chantra and Jack Miller rebanted after a crash to take 2 points. The final finisher in 14th place. Marc Marquez, of course, on his way home for surgery, one suspects. 183 points his advantage. Alex Marquez, though, crucially now 88 clear of Pecco Bagnaia in that battle for 2nd place. Marco Bezzecchi, of course, also failing to score today. Ducati was Constructors champions. KTM do at least close in a little on Aprilia today after their 2nd place. Ducati Lenovo, of course, secured the team's championship yesterday. However, they scored no points today. Alex Marquez has secured the title of top independent rider in 2025. He cannot be caught now by Frankie Morbidelli. Independent independent team standings. Of course, a big payday today for Grassini, first and third. They're now 145 points clear of PR46. Start of the Grand Prix, so many were expecting Marco Bezzecchi to cruise to victory. Once again, though, it was a poor start that started the problems for the Aprilia man. Pedro Acosta securing the whole shot into turn one as Bezzecchi fell back once again, down to 8th place. And on his way back through the field on lap one, contact with Marc Marquez, who's now got a damaged collarbone. Marco Bezzecchi surely likely to cop a penalty for that one. Left Pedro Acosta then away at the front of the field, but the crucial move came in the very early stages. Fermin Aldeguer taking the lead and crucially escaping from that almighty battle for height. Luca Marini was leading the chase up behind Pedro Acosta, very briefly held second place. Acosta straight back through. Marini would soon encounter some problems in his battle with Raul Fernandez. This was the Trackhouse man on the inside of Marini into turn 16, contact on the way into 17, and a further moment for Marini at the end of the main straight into turn one. A corner later dropped him out of the podium battle. Alex Rins moving up into third place. Before that became second as he certainly enjoyed the benefits of his soft rear tyre. Alex Marquez upwardly mobile in this Grand Prix as he then dived through on Acosta. But Alex Rins' soft rear tyre was now starting to cost him as he plummeted backwards in the closing stages. At this stage we were on for a Grassini 1-2. But Pedro Acosta refused to be beaten in this battle for P2. Regaining the advantage from Alex Marquez, but they were all fighting for a very distant second. Fermin Aldeguer miles clear as he claimed his maiden MotoGP victory, becoming just the second youngest rider to claim MotoGP glory. Aldeguer, your winner. Next stop, Australia. We will see you on the island in a couple of weeks. welcome to pandemonium here in the paddock at the MotoGP Mandalika circuit. Lewis Sunny and Jack Uppy are with you, but after the flag, after an extraordinary Indonesian Grand Prix, there are two massive overarching stories from this Indonesian Grand Prix. We'll do our best to cover them both over the course of this half-hour show. Marc Marquez heading home for surgery. Suspected fracture to his right collarbone or shoulder. We'll get more information hopefully in the coming days. After a lap 1 contact with Marco Bezzecchi, the victory though, which we must start with, victory taken in the absence of Bezzecchi. There was one clear favourite, and Fermin Aldeguer crushed the opposition.
Yeah, he could have won today by 12, 13, 14 seconds. He was so much quicker than everybody else. I think even Marco Bezzecchi, who we'll get on to, and the problems that he caused himself on that opening lap, at his very best, I think would have struggled to really fight with Fermin today. His pace was phenomenal, the only rider consistently in the 1 minute 30s, and today just a huge example of why this sport is the most unpredictable on earth. These guys are on a knife edge, and anything can happen in a split second, which turns the sport upside down. And you feel that today is one of those days that in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, we may look back on and say that that was a day where so many storylines changed, some for the better, some for the worse. It's been a hugely dramatic day with the consequences. I think we're going to have to wait some time to be able to see the full effect play out.
Yeah, we'll see, as you can see, further evidence of just how busy this paddock here is in Indonesia. We're doing our very best to keep this show on track. Fermin Aldeguer certainly had no problems keeping his Grand Prix on track. In terms of the key moments in the race for him, of course, the Marco Bezzecchi poor start and then collision with Marc Marquez was key, but escaping from that enormous battle up behind Pedro Acosta in those early stages was ultimately the key to victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once he was able to get to the front, he put a second and a half into Acosta almost immediately, and the race was done from then on in. Acosta battled so hard today. What a fighter, what a warrior he is. And at the same time, I don't think anybody ever seen anybody stand on a podium after a second place finish looking so frustrated, so miffed at the fact that what was once his good buddy, the young man that he grew up with in Murcia at ages 5, 6, 7, going around car parks on mini bikes, has managed to beat him to a first MotoGP victory, because he feels with the right machinery, that should have been me last year, that should have been me this year. Pedro Acosta is good enough to win races, but right now KTM are.
Yeah, KTM really had to back Pedro Acosta, although of course Brad Binder did come through from 15th to 4th today, so it was a very good day for the factory KTM team. In terms of Aldeguer then, of course there was so much talk about his promotion up to MotoGP. He was signed a year out from his MotoGP debut, and of course the way his 2024 Moto2 campaign went, when of course he didn't win the World Championship as so many expected, it led to some inevitable questions about whether Ducati had gone too early in signing Fermin Aldeguer. Of course, working with a crew chief who is very experienced in working with young talent. He's proven with Joan Mir, he's proven with Fabio Di Giannantonio. Ducati already fully rewarded for their faith in Fermin.
We speak a lot about environment, and that a rider, yes, he's alone on the bike, but so much goes into it behind the scenes, and the people that you surround yourself with are so important. And I think we said in pre-season, after a turbulent Moto2 campaign where the news breaking about his MotoGP arrival really derailed his season, and the weight of expectations got to him, the pressure got to him last year, and he didn't deal with that particularly well. Well, he came into Gresini this year and had Frankie Carcetti alongside him, who now, over the past 5 years, has won with Joan Mir, with Fabio Di Giannantonio, with Marc Marquez, with now Fermin Aldeguer. He moved into a Gresini team who, as Michele Mazzini pointed out immediately, has now won extraordinarily with every single rider that has come to that team during their Ducati era. Enea Bastianini, Fabio Di Giannantonio, Marc Marquez, Alex Marquez, Fermin Aldeguer. Have I forgot one? I don't think so. That's the 5 of them. So the job that that team, that Frankie Carcetti is able to do, have to take so much credit, so many of the plaudits, because time and time again they're able to deliver with riders. And yes, the talent is there for Fermin. It's obvious the talent is there, that he's able to just become the second youngest MotoGP winner of all time. But as we say, that the environment has been so crucial to extracting that talent and to allow him to deliver on the big stage.
And ultimately, once he got into the front of this race, he was a test of his concentration. His lead, I think, reached 9 seconds at one point over Pedro Acosta, until Fermin, of course, celebrated on his way to the finish line, which kind of flattered the chasing pack in many respects. It was the third Aldeguer that we saw win Moto2 Grand Prix at the Canter.
Yeah, at the end of 2023, when he, of course, matched Tony Elias's record by winning 4 straight Grand Prix. That was enough at the age of 18 for everybody in the paddock to take notes and go, okay, this kid is a superstar. And throughout the year, the working process has been, let's make sure that we are strong at the end of races first and foremost. They spent all of pre-season without hardly ever using a brand new soft rear tyre. And then suddenly, on the weekend where he puts it together in qualifying and gets his first front row start, it's amazing how everything just came so much easier after that. He's not fighting through from row 5, he's able to do it his own way from the front row.
Let's move on to the other big story. We'll do our best to hear from the top 3. We're hoping to get a word with Marc Marquez during the show before he heads off to the airport, one would assume, to get the trip home and get some surgery done. Of course, it all started with Marco Bezzecchi's bad start. Carbon copy, really, this start from Saturday, although for a different reason, we suspect.
Yes, you say that, but it was very different. Yesterday, problem with the clutch, which saw him drop backwards during that initial drive phase. Today, I was stood right in front of pole position, and his reaction time was poor. Compared to everybody else, he was noticeably a second slower at the jump, and that immediately put him on the back foot. He went through his usual process of kissing the bike, of caressing it, and then looking up, and it felt as though, as he looked up, he was rushed into it then, because suddenly the lights were on, and that's why that reaction time was noticeably slower than everybody else, and it put him mid-pack, put him 6, and you have to say that he panicked a little bit, and I'll be shocked if he doesn't get a penalty for that, because on a MotoGP bike in particular, we know it's so difficult to overtake. It's tough to be able to fire through there on a Moto3 machine. Nobody all weekend has made a move there, and for good reason, because it is super fast. You've got to be totally committed, and there just isn't any room. And especially, you've got to take into consideration the man in front of you as well. You're not exactly trying to overtake someone a little bit further back. You're trying to overtake the man who's just been crowned world champion and dominated the season. He's not an easy man to get past, never mind at a place like that. So a huge error for Marco Bezzecchi today. Firstly off the line, and that just spiralled out of control from there into that big error, which, as we say, is surely going to get a penalty for it by the time we get to Phillip Island.
Yeah, one suspects that the next time you see both the factory Aprilia riders in a MotoGP race, they're both going to be serving penalties. Of course, Martin got penalties after running into Bezzecchi at the start of the sprint. He'll serve that next time we see him. Surely Marco Bezzecchi will be in for a similar fate. And I guess for Marc Marquez, who's on his way now, there was a medical helicopter that just took off moments ago. Can't confirm whether Marc Marquez was on that or not. But Marc Marquez, unfortunately, I guess he's now seen both sides of that coin in the space of a week.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, this is MotoGP. In the space of 7 days, everything can change. These guys are riding on such a knife edge that all it takes is a quick momentary lapse of concentration from yourself or someone else, and your whole season can change in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, Marc Marquez, of course, winning the World Championship last weekend at the end of that such phenomenal comeback, which ran over the course of 4 or 5 years or so. I believe we can head over now to get some instant reaction from this Grand Prix. Let's join that bit. Can't hear anything at the moment, can't hear any reaction in our ears, so we'll persist nonetheless. So in terms of Marc Marquez then, of course, after such an emotional weekend last weekend, of course, winning the World Championship. Of course, we're going to have to wait and see just when he ultimately returns. But on a weekend where Ducati won the team's championship, neither factory Ducati rider leaves looking like a champion.
It's so difficult to put into words. In fact, let's head over to Pedro Acosta.
Take me a lot of time for this. We will try to be more competitive next time.
Sometimes it felt like it was a Moto3 race.
Okay,
there were so many big
how much did you enjoy the Pedro
Acosta
interview?
I forgot that at the moment I have quite an easy way to overtake the race, you know. But it's true that it's not an easy race. A lot of management also for the rear tire for this. I have to be happy, that's it.
I'm talking about the start. I mean, you made a brilliant start, probably one of the best you've made in MotoGP to get that run down into the first corner. Was it one of your best starts you've made?
Yeah, maybe. Already in Motegi, coming from 4th to 2nd was a really great start and good breaking point. Knowing that last year I was suffering a lot with at the moment to attack the first corner. But man, today was super nice to arrive there. All the track was for me, for this. Anyway, we have to still playing a bit, try to become more complete and more perfect also myself like a rider for this. We will try next time.
I think we've seen once again today, Pedro, it's never been really in any doubt. You're ready to win, clearly. How much longer do you think the bike's going to need before you can be on that top step yourself?
Now, I don't think about winning. Now I'm just trying to become a better rider. I know that are not going to be easy. It's true that KTM is improving. Now we are constantly fighting for podiums, more or less, or inside the top 5. That is what I wanted after the summer break. But it's clear that we are still one step behind for this. Now I'm just trying to become a better rider, be more complete, make less mistakes, also try to avoid the mistakes like yesterday one. And try to be more complete, to be ready to the moment that the bike is ready to win.
Awesome to watch you fight today, Pedro. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was Pedro Acosta speaking to Matt Burt. We got the tail end of that interview just at the end, and let's discuss Pedro Acosta's performance. Rode the widest KTM I think any of us have seen in MotoGP here this afternoon. It looked like he was backing essentially the rest of the race up behind him, except the LCR Hondas. There was a train from second Pedro Acosta all the way down to the VR46 Ducatis, who were 11th and 12th.
Yeah.
Somehow Acosta kept them all at bay.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. I mean, as we said a moment ago, what a warrior, what a fighter. Paul Trevathan said that podium today is down to him. He made it happen today. It was nothing to do with the package we put underneath him, because you could see from early on he just was not comfortable. But amazingly, when he had to, he dug deep and found exceptional lap times at the most opportune moments. A brilliant performance from Acosta, although I think he's going to take some cheering up after today.
Well, the rider immediately behind him at the end of the Grand Prix. It was a good day for Alex Marquez in terms of securing second in the World Championship with Pecco Bagnaio's crash. Alex Marquez giving his reaction now to Matt Burt.
Alex Marquez taking another big giant step towards second in the World Championship. His teammate Fermin Aldeguer winning the Grand Prix, a double podium. Alex, your 22nd podium of the season. I think that was probably the hardest one you've had at times. That 27-lap race must have felt like 27 hours.
Yeah, endurance race, you know. I never did an endurance race. I need to be fair with the guys that they are making the 24 hours and the endurance World Championship, but it was so long, so hot. You know, it was all the race riding at 80%, just try to not make mistakes, just to be on the bike. And they was there on the train for many laps of the Yamahas that cost me a lot of time on that point. Also, you know, I did a mistake on the start. You know, I didn't engage the front device. Something happened on that point. I hear a really big noise on the front and was not able to engage. But they start not bad, so I saved it quite okay. So today doing the podium, super happy in my side, you know, especially because we suffer a little bit, especially with the soft tires. So starting from 7 was not easy. And also I want to congratulate the team and especially Fermin. He did an amazing job. I want to say one more time, you know, everybody that passed on the scene win a race. It's not a casualty, it's for something, you know. It's an amazing team, amazing family. So they deserve it, and also Fermin that. He was patient all the year to be there, so happy and not going to continue working.
It is no coincidence, as you mentioned, that so many riders have gone through Gresini and had so much success. Fermin, the latest winner there. Alex, of course, it was a strong battle throughout the Grand Prix. I just said to Pedro Acosta, at times it felt like a Moto3 race for you guys out there. What was the difference towards the end in that battle for second with Pedro? Was it just because he had the medium front, he had that little bit more braking performance?
I was feeling on the limit physically and everything, you know. I was many races, many laps, behind many bikes, and I think my front tire was hitting much more. I did a mistake on some corner. I said, okay, give up, just score the podium and just going you know, forward. So just that, you know. Today I'm happy for the podium. Honestly speaking, I'm not happy because it's Mark crashing and I know that it's not really super good. So just that. So yeah, it's like it is, the life, but you know, sometimes it's hard to accept.
Yeah, I have to ask you about that incident, Alex, because you were not far behind both Mark and Marco Bezzecchi at the time. You've had a chance to watch the replays as well. I mean, such a contrasting fortune in the space of a week for Mark. 7 days after he wins the World Championship. Now, unfortunately, it does look like he's picked up an injury. What did you see? What did you make of the incident?
The incident is clear. I mean, Marco did a mistake. He was too optimistic to overtook her, especially on that point. You know, it's super fast and it's impossible to make a move there. But it's what I said. You know, I don't want to criticize Bezzecchi because in the end it's normal. We have 44 races with the sprint one. The percentage of make a mistake is so high. So everybody did a mistake during the season, and it's nearly not possible to not make that mistake in some race. So it's totally normal. I'm a rider. We arrived already at the end of the season. Physically, mentally, we are quite like this, all the riders, and I think it's something that we need to think for the future.
Alex, well done again. Congratulations to the team. It feels like you've taken another big leap towards a Marquez 1-2 in the championship today. Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, he certainly has. Alex Marquez now 88 points clear of Pecco Bagnaia. Surely it's a matter of time now before he secures that second place in the World Championship. Let's now hear from the World Champion, Marc Marquez, taken down on the first lap. Let's get the latest post conditions from the man himself.
Okay, so Marquez, first of all, how are you feeling? What did the doctor say?
Yeah, of course, I mean, of course I feel sad right now because, yeah, again hit the right arm, and this time is the collarbone. Looks like the ligament, collarbone ligament is broken, but let's see, still we need to wait a bit to understand in Madrid, more careful what I have. But yeah, this is racing. These things happen. It's true that this time was not my mistake, but another time was my mistake, and so already Marco Bezzecchi comes to me and says sorry. So yeah, unlucky for me I get injured, but one more time. Racing is like this, and now we will come back to Madrid, listen to the doctors, what they say, and then try to recover in a good way and come back as soon as possible, but inside the recovery.
What's the plan for the following hours, following days?
Yeah, no, the plan is just fly as soon as possible to Madrid. Already tonight we fly to Madrid, and then go straight away to the doctor, fix the collarbone because something is broken. I can feel, and yeah, from that point listen to the doctor and try to recover in a good way.
Okay, you have a quick recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Gracias.
Yeah, we echo those sentiments. Laura Jordan asking the questions there. Marc Marquez, I guess,
Breaking
the situation in Phillip Island now has to be in some serious doubt. Of course, we know one thing that Marc Marquez is not going to do is rush back from any injury.
Yeah, very quickly, I think all of us will be pleased to hear in a way, collarbone or shoulder, conflicting reports there. It's nothing to do with that right humerus bone, which obviously he's been through hell and back with, so I think everyone will be pleased to hear that it's not another sort of issue for him to deal with on that right humerus.
Let's hear from your winner, Fermin Aldeguer, history maker today. He's picking him up.
History maker. It gives me so much pleasure to say this to the first time 2-0 rider in MotoGP. Fermin Aldeguer, congratulations, you are a race winner for the first time in MotoGP. How special, how cool does that feel?
Breaking gangs.
This is a very special moment for me, for all my people, for Gresini
Breaking
team,
gangs.
for
Marc
Gandhi.
Marquez lagi-lagi.
I think to be rookie, we are doing an incredible work. We knew also before coming here, but yes, in some
Breaking
race,
gangs. Marc
I
Marquez
felt,
lagi-lagi alami crash parah di MotoGP Mandalika hari ini.
We knew that we had to improve the Fridays, the qualifying, and after will be easier to do this kind of racing. Nothing. This is extra motivation for the next race. I want to enjoy this moment and try to continue improve, to be clear with our goals, and yeah, just to enjoy.
Just talk us through the race, of course. I think the first 6 laps you were behind Pedro Acosta. I guess at that stage you were just happy to be patient, not take any sort of silly risks, and just wait for the right time to hit the front and make the break.
Yeah, I start well in the start, but
I brake a little bit early in the first corner. I don't block the front bike. I'm blocked in the second corner, but was okay. I tried to don't do a big mistake trying to overtake the other riders. I do the overtake with Marini, where I tried yesterday with Bet in the last lap, and after I do the win overtake where where I lost the victory yesterday, no? And yes, this is that I'm improving. Now I understand better this class, but yes, after was more difficult than the overtakes because be 20 laps in front with a good pace without do a mistake was difficult and very long race.
Did you have any mistakes? I mean, it didn't look like it at all. I mean, at one stage you were 9 seconds clear in that Grand Prix. I mean, we know it's never easy, but you made it look so easy.
Yeah, I don't do a big mistakes, only sometime in the first corner, but I lost 0.3 at maximum. When I saw 7 laps more or less and 9 seconds, I start to think a lot of things, and yeah, was difficult to don't do this kind of mistake, but I think a race for a big rider in MotoGP, not for a rookie, and we have to be happy.
Yeah, you rode anything like a rookie today, Fermin. You were fantastic. You are the second youngest winner ever in MotoGP history behind Marc Marquez, the first rookie to win since Jorge Martin in 2021. It feels like this is like a bit of a weight off your shoulders. Now we're going to see you at the front almost every weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking about this thing during the race, because I said, okay, man, I think only with Martin, from Martin, any rookie won one race. I'm second behind Mark, and this helped me to be focused, and yeah, nothing.
And just finally, before we let you go and start the celebrations,
Insiden terjadi di lap pertama bareng Marco Bezzecchi.
Yesterday, we saw you actually in the hotel restaurant last night. You're eating a very, very big burger. The burger obviously works, so I guess there's going to be another burger to celebrate tonight.
Di lap pertama bareng Marco Bezzecchi.
Yeah, yesterday was a little sad day, but we was super motivated today, and yes, I ate 2 burgers and maybe 1 pizza.
You have thoroughly deserved it. Well done for me. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, he's fueled up nicely for today's Grand Prix. Avoided he backed that up with the victory in the end. Incredible victory. Let's try and cover some of the other stories from that Grand Prix. An incredible battle behind Pedro Acosta. I almost feel like just sending it over to you, saying, who do you want to talk about out of that chasing group? Let's give a mention to Alex Rins, who was running in second place. Certainly took the benefit from that soft rear tyre, but he got the payback at the end.
Yeah, if the race would have been, what, 4 laps, 5 laps shorter, it would have been a phenomenal performance and a day to celebrate for Alex Rins and Yamaha, who has had a pretty poor and disappointing
Insiden terjadi
so
di lap
far,
pertama bareng Marco Bezzecchi.
we were able to see some
Bezzecchi
kind of
nyenggol bagian belakang motor Marquez pas
something to be pleased about, but yeah, that soft rear tyre was
Insiden terjadi
destroyed in the end. You just have to look at the last lap times of both him and Miguel Oliveira that opted
di lap
for
pertama
the soft
bareng Marco
combination.
Bezzecchi.
They were about 2-3 seconds lap slower than everybody else. They rolled the dice, and unfortunately it didn't work.
Let's quick fire then, try and go through some more, because the press conference is coming up shortly. Brad Binder, 15th to 4th, best result of 2025.
Insiden
Needed it
terjadi
as
di
well.
lap
Brad
pertama
Binder,
bareng
again, another rider who's had some problems this year, who hasn't been able to put it all together.
Marco
But
Bezzecchi.
we always know he's a Sunday man, he's Brad Binder, and he showed that today.
Insiden
A
terjadi
great
di lap
surge
pertama.
through the field, and hopefully that's the much needed boost and the confidence he needs for these final 4 rounds of the year to really attack it going into next year.
5th place in the
Di lap
end
pertama
for Luca
bareng
Marini
Marco
on board the
Bezzecchi.
factory Honda. I guess he'll be
Bezeki nyenggol bagian belakang motor Marquez pas masuk tikungan dan dua-duanya langsung kelempar ke gravel.
Ralph Fernandez and others queued up to knock it back through the pack.
Marini will be bitterly disappointed with fifth, which I don't think we would have thought we'd be saying, a month or so ago. But in those final 3 laps, outside of Aldeguer, he was the fastest man out there. I was watching on the pit wall behind Alberto Puig, and he was cursing the fact that he was having to come through the field from 6-7 with 3 laps to go and wasn't in the podium hunt, because if he would have been there, it would have been back-to-back podiums for Honda, and they deserved it as well. Marini was fast today. He had great rhythm, but as you say, he got caught out in that melee with Pedro Acosta, and I'm sure he'll look back on it and maybe be frustrated at himself for not being ever so slightly more aggressive to get that move done and give himself the chance to what he probably could have pulled clear of Pedro.
I guess a disappointment on both sides of the factory Honda garage today. Of course, Joan Mir crashed out of that group in the very
Insiden terjadi di lap pertama bareng Mark.
So it wasn't a first Grand Prix podium today to go with the first sprint podium, but certainly a weight lifted off Ralph Fernandez's shoulders this weekend.
Yeah, it's a positive weekend. There can be no arguing against
Insiden
that.
terjadi di lap
and a podium yesterday, his first in MotoGP colours.
Mandalika
4
hari ini.
years of waiting, 4 years of
Insiden
turmoil. That is
terjadi
going to see Ralph Fernandez, you would hope, revigorated and renewed now that pressure is
Insiden
finally
terjadi di lap
The
pertama.
riders are ready for the press conference, so we'll head up there shortly. But our thanks to all of you for watching what was an incredible Indonesian Grand Prix weekend. We'll see you in a couple of weeks in Phillip Island, where we hope to see the reigning world champion Marc Marquez join us. Fermin Aldeguer, Pedro Acosta and Alex Marquez ready to speak to Matt Burt now in the press conference.
Insiden terjadi di lap pertama bareng Marco Bezeki. Bezeki nyenggol bagian belakang motor Marquez pas masuk tikungan dan dua-duanya langsung kelempar ke gravel.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunday press conference here at the Pertamina Grand Prix of Indonesia. We have our top 3 riders on an unforgettable day for the BK8 Gresini Racing Ducati squad. What a day for Fermin Aldeguer, the second youngest rider to win in MotoGP history, the first rookie to do so since Jorge Martin back in 2020. What a great job
Bezeki
by
nyenggol
Fermin.
bagian belakang motor Marquez pas masuk tikungan dan dua-duanya langsung kelempar ke gravel. Marquez sempat kesakitan sambil megang bahu kanannya, dan hasil pemeriksaan nunjukin ada retak ringan di tubuh.
Gentlemen, congratulations to all 3. That was a very, very long and hard 27 laps in those very hot conditions. Fermin, we'll start the press conference with you. What a race. I mean, 9 seconds clear at one point.
Marquez sempat kesakitan sambil megang bahu kanannya.
And you are for the first time a MotoGP.
Hasil pemeriksaan nunjukin ada retak ringan.
I'm super happy. I'm super happy to win the race, but more than maybe with my weekend, because we don't start in the best way. In the second lap of the free practice, I crashed. I lost the first free practice, and yes, after we was recovered during
ada retak ringan di tulang selangkah kanan.
I think this new rear tires here.
Tim Ducati langsung konfirmasi.
Because, we saw other riders, the other Ducati,
di tulang selangkah kanan.
In the limit, and in Moto2 and also in Austria, when
nunjukin ada retak ringan di tulang selangkah kanan.
Very fast. I manage very well the throttle. I do a good flow, and yes, nothing amazing. I want to say thank you
ke kanan.
to Ducati.
Tim Ducati langsung konfirmasi Marc bakal dibawa ke Spanyol buat pemeriksaan lanjutan, termasuk CT scan buat lihat perlu operasi atau enggak.
In my rookie season, it's not easy.
Sebelum crash ini, Mark udah jatuh 2 kali di sesi latihan loh.
After a good early fight with Pedro, I think
Katanya sih karena kondisi trek licin banget.
20 laps, you built a lead of 9 seconds as we mentioned. That's a long time in these conditions, in this heat, to sort of keep the focus, keep the concentration. How tough was that for you, Fermi?
Yesterday the sprint was long and was 13 laps. I lead 12. Today, the first lap, I felt very good, but was difficult to overtake Marini and Pedro. I overtook Marini in the same place than I tried yesterday in the last lap with Beth, and I overtook Pedro in the same corner than I lost yesterday the sprint. I'm improved. I'm improved. And yeah, after when I saw in the pit board 20 laps to lead, a lot of things was in my head, but I tried to be super focused, to do my pace, and lap by lap I was open more gap. We talked also with the team yesterday that don't put who was behind me, because yesterday when I saw best I do more mistakes, and today I was waiting to best because during the whole weekend he was faster than me.
Operasi atau enggak?
But
sebelum crash ini, Mark udah jatuh 2 kali di sesi latihan loh.
I was open lap by lap more gap.
Sebelum crash ini, Mark udah jatuh 2.
Motivate me to continue push.
Congratulations once again for a fantastic job. Very well done. Great to see those celebrations with the team after that Grand Prix as well. Second place and a very hard-fought second place for Red Bull KTM factory racing rider Pedro Acosta. Pedro, you made a fantastic start. I mean, we saw you leading from the first corner, very brave on the brakes into that turn when you led for
kali di sesi latihan loh.
Sabtu finish. What was a very demanding race in second. You've got to be very satisfied with how Sunday turned out.
Perlu operasi atau enggak?
Yeah.
Sebelum crash ini, Mark udah jatuh 2 kali di sesi latihan loh.
Make a good start. Try to be first or close to the first in this initial part of the race, because we know that normally we are able to be slightly faster than the rest. But it's true that here was quite difficult for us because we have.
Sebelum crash ini, Mark udah jatuh 2 kali di sesi latihan loh. Katanya sih karena kondisi trek licin banget dan motor agak liar pas hard braking. Semoga cepat pulih ya.
Was not easy because if I was really behind, was too high. If I was along, was too low. For this was not a easy race. We know where is the weakest point of our bike and
di sesi
where we
latihan
can
loh.
be better.
Katanya sih karena kondisi trek licin banget dan motor agak liar pas hard braking.
I think I'm becoming a better rider since beginning of the
Semoga
year.
cepat pulih ya, Mark. Soalnya musim ini dia lagi top form banget bareng Ducati.
Better races after all, and don't make it the rookie mistakes that I was making at the beginning of the season. It's true that after coming from the summer break,
sayang banget kalau harus absen panjang lagi.
Top 5 for this, we have to try to make this a small step. We are becoming closer. We are trying to fight for the podium every weekend for this. More or less, we have to be happy with the weekend, because after the race of yesterday and all the pain that I have in the shoulder was not quite easy.
So many great battles you had in that Grand Prix. First you with Fermi, then you had battles with Alex, battles with Marini, battles with Alex Rins. Just how hard did you have to work to keep hold of that second place?
Well, more than anything was to manage the front tire pressure, you know, was not quite easy. It's true that you can see that at the end of the race I have a plus compare the race, because, I mean, compare the group that I was. Because I was managing quite okay the rear tire. Like I say, it's not easy to battle with bikes that are turning more than you and can use a softer front tire.
Breaking news, Marc Marquez lagi-lagi alami crash parah di MotoGP Mandalika hari ini. Di lap pertama bareng Marco Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi nyenggol bagian belakang motor Marquez pas masuk tikungan, dan dua-duanya Marquez. Ada retak ringan di tulang selutut. Ducati langsung konfirmasi Mark bakal dibawa ke spa. Sebelum crash ini di sesi latihan loh. Semoga cepat pulih ya. Sayang banget kalau harus absen panjang lagi.
A good strong Sunday for you as well here in Indonesia.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I mean, I started the race in a really bad way. I had a problem with the front device, and that I didn't engage the front device, so I said, okay, bye-bye the race. But for lucky, I was able to make also quite a good start. I lost positions. I don't know in which position I was on the first lap. I was just trying to be constant, to not make mistakes. And then suddenly, in one point, the podium I had really fast. But then suddenly, from one lap to the other one, I say, whoa, the group is here, no? So I just tried my best there. I was on the train of the Yamahas, both, Quartararo and Rins, that they were super fast with the soft on the beginning and was impossible to overtake them. But later on, I started to overtake, I started to feel a little bit better, so I did everything with patience, just trying to not make mistakes. And yeah, really nice podium, starting from P7, having podium problems in the beginning, and all that is a good result. And yeah, it's really positive weekend. That last year we suffered a lot. On the paper was one of my weakest points here in Mandalika, so we saved it in a really good mood.
You, like Pedro, had so many great battles throughout that Grand Prix. I mean, what was the difference you felt between the two of you at the end? Where did you just have that little advantage to hang on to that second place?
I mean, from outside maybe it was quite a funny race, but from inside it was quite boring because to make the move and all that is super difficult. You need to calculate so much. You cannot take a lot of risks, so you need to make the move in a really nice way. So, I just be there, patient and all that, and, in the last 2 laps, Pedro was faster than me. He overtook me and I said, okay, podium is okay. After all the problems that we have on the weekend. So yeah, quite positive. As I said, many important points for our second in the championship, and we need to looking forward for Australia.
Alex, another fantastic weekend for you here in Mandalika, and please pass on our thoughts to Mark as well for a very speedy recovery after that nasty crash you had on the first lap. Likewise to Marco Bezzecchi, of course, as well. Just one final duty from me. Fermin, I'm just being told, of course, Indonesia, MotoGP here is huge. You guys are treated like rock stars. You're like Hollywood celebrities. You have just been voted the rider of the race by fans. So I just wanted to get your reaction to that news. Congratulations as well, by the way.
Thank you very much. I like this kind of thing. Nothing, thank you.
There you go. Thanks to all. I think you made the right call, all those fans watching at home. I think Fermin Aldeguer was clearly the rider of the race. Gentlemen, well done to all three of you. We'll now take questions, please, from the media. Thank you.
Hi, Dimitri Diathidis from Greek TV. A question for each of you. I'll start with Alex. Alex, all weekend, your teammate was faster than you. What you saw in his telemetry, where he was gaining that advantage?
I mean, yeah, during during all the weekend, especially from the FP2, he was able to be really fast with the soft. He was really constant. He was able to make a lot of speed corners. So I think his natural weight of riding was really perfect for this track, and especially also. He had that better than everybody else in Ducati to this track from riders, not from bike. So he was making the difference, that the bike were quite similar to our one and all that about setup things. So he did a better job than us. He was able to ride in a really free way. We saw it on data, I think he crashed just in FP1, but it was a rookie mistake. That was a rookie mistake. But for the rest, he was faster than us, not crashing, and all that. So when I tried 2 times in practice and in quali to make that lines, I crashed 2 times. So I was not able to make that. So just for his riding style, he had a much better than us, and he was better. So just was a really nice help for us to have that reference on all the weekend.
A question for Pedro. Pedro, it seems that KTM is making progress compared to the first races, but is something missing? You said that we know what is missing. Is it possible to explain to us also?
I mean, are missing many points, you know. We know that we have to use harder tires than the race in the front. I mean, for us, it was not an option to race with the soft front, and you can see that all the rest guys, taking out Quartararo was with hard, was the only different choice in the grid for this. We know that something is happening in the front part of the bike because we are not turning, we are not having any help from the front, and many of the crashes that we are having is because we don't have any feedback for this. It's quite difficult to know now, but KTM for sure is working on it. Minimum, I'm able more or less to be fast always. Now I'm more or less constantly also in this top 5 for this. Now I'm becoming a better rider. I think now I'm maturing a bit more compare the step that I make last year. For this now, I think I'm riding quite okay. I'm more constant in being fast and not making rookie mistakes for this. We are becoming better.
Thank you. And question for Fermin. Fermin, do you remember the crash of Jorge Martin here 2 years ago that he was leading by same distance as yours? It was any thoughts of you that 9 seconds is a lot and maybe
Breaking gengs, Marc Marquez lagi-lagi alami crash parah di MotoGP Mandalika hari ini. Insiden terjadi di lap pertama bareng Marco Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi nyenggol bagian belakang motor Marquez pas masuk tikungan dan dua-duanya langsung kelempar ke gravel. Marquez sempat kesakitan sambil megang bahu kanannya, dan hasil pemeriksaan nunjukin ada retak ringan di tulang selangkah kanan.
Because if you maybe reduce the speed, you do more mistakes, and I try all time to be focused. This pace of 30.8, 30.7 was comfortable for me without going in the limit and with something more. Yes, it's better to continue with the same pace, and yeah, also because I don't do a lot of laps with the medium. I didn't knew what happened if more laps in a go, and I do this.
Okay, I think that's it. Gentlemen, Fermin, Pedro and Alex, congratulations. Great job here in Mandalika. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time in Australia. Thank you.